Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. I'm in American comics, I pursue eternity with super god technology. Chapter 61. The captain's actions were unexpected. But this is in line with the goals of Quicksilver and Vision this time. In the Research Institute, Wu Chen had already learned about everything that happened on the aircraft carrier. Beside him is Scarlet Witch, cuddling and closing his eyes. After Wu Chen crossed, he has always been alone. So far, only Scarlet Witch has walked closer to him. It is said that it is a long-term relationship, and both of them are at a vigorous age, and it is reasonable to reach this step. You fight for this chance for them, but they may not really know how to cherish it. Wu Chen said, "We are also human beings, and it is our duty to fight for this chance for them." Wanda opened her eyes and said, "You speak like I'm not human." Wu Chen said that although he was not born in this world, he is definitely a human being, the most authentic human being. You are human, but you have already surpassed human beings, and now you are standing at the height of the universe, which is not the same as us. Wanda didn't deny Wu Chen's statement, but apparently, she also didn't think that Wu Chen was a Zhengjing human. After all, serious human beings can't go to heaven and earth and be omnipotent. I'm not standing at the height of the universe, I just don't like people to disturb me. Wu Chen said it very directly, he just doesn't like people to disturb him. Then you're pretty self-centered. Wanda said. Wu Chen agreed casually, then closed his eyes and began to really rest. Scarlet Witch on the side was already tired. Seeing Wu Chen resting, she put her head on Wu Chen's shoulder and fell asleep quietly. The next morning, Wu Chen came to the hall of the research room, where Dr. Pym, Star-Lord, and Ant-Man Scott had all arrived. It seemed very lively all day yesterday. Dr. Pym said directly after seeing Wu Chen. Those warships on the periphery have all gone, but Senator Ross shouldn't give up so easily, right? Wu Chen said, waving his right hand at will. The information about Congressman Ross has been displayed in the center of the research hall. Sure enough, he's sending troops from all over the world. Wu Chen said, Congressman Ross used to be a lieutenant general in the Air Force, and he had great influence in the military. Now, he has become a congressman and is also the main person in charge of the superhero registration bill, and his influence will only be greater than in the past. To mobilize the army, he can easily do it. Dr. Pym used to be a high-level agent in S.H.I.E.L.D. After leaving S.H.I.E.L.D., he founded the Pym Group. He still has some knowledge of these major figures in the outside world. It's just a small fight between a group of ordinary people. Even if he really gathers the army, he may not dare to do anything to me here. Wu Chen said, Ross is a lunatic. In order to hunt me down, he even created another Hulk himself. Banner said that he is not in Hulk's state now, and he knows more about Ross than others. After all, Ross almost became his old husband in the comics, but there are changes in the movie. Even if Ross wanted to, they wouldn't let him do it at Stark. Wu Chen said, and from the very beginning, he actually didn't care much about these conditions in the Earth. What Civil War, what Superhero Registration Act, these events are big events for Avengers, but for Wu Chen and the Superhero Institute, they are trivial matters. Besides, aren't Vision and Quicksilver still out there? The two of them don't want to see those guys come and die. When Wu Chen said this, Scarlet Witch just walked in. Yes, let the two of them handle the affairs of the Earth. We don't need to worry about these things in vain. Scarlet Witch said, today she is full of spring breeze. Yesterday, Dr. Pym and the others were not there, but they had long known that Scarlet Witch liked Wu Chen. Now that they saw this scene, they basically understood what happened last night. Since you don't intend to pay attention to the things on Earth, can I deal with it, my life experience? Star-Lord stepped forward, he was still very tangled. Although I have already contacted Yongdu, at the speed of Yongdu, it will take a day or two to rush over. Moreover, no matter what kind of truth he wants to tell after Yondu arrives, there must be a celestial race who wants to rule the entire universe behind it. Your problem really needs to be dealt with. Wu Chen said. The big clock adjusted its direction almost immediately. Originally, the big clock was monitoring the internal conditions of the Earth, but now, it is directly transferred to the universe. In the entire galaxy, everything is under the control of the big clock. During Wu Chen's cosmic trip this time, he has well perfected some of the monitoring data that the big clock needs. On Xandar Star, Igo's whereabouts were monitored. He obviously went to look for Star-Lord, but only after arriving did he find that a war broke out on Xandar Star, and the alliance formed by Thanos, Doctor Strange and others was completely destroyed by the attack of Wu Chen alone. Moreover, Xing Lord is no longer in Xandar, and he has been brought to Earth by Wu Chen. Wu Chen, why do you have to fight against me? Egg was a little furious, and he didn't even know that, at the moment, his actions were already under the monitoring of the big clock. Hey, you don't look like an ordinary person, do you want to do some business? Rocket Raccoon, the guy who was supposed to form the Guardians of Galaxy with Star-Lord, is now bringing the Tree Groot to Egg. Doing business. What business report do you want? Egg looked at the rocket suspiciously. Wang Ma Jiao. In this war, there are a lot of good things left, such as this. As Rocket spoke, he took a spear from the tree ant, the peerless blade of Corvus Glaive. How about it? Do you like it? If you like it, I can sell it to you at a low price. Rocket Raccoon said, and at the moment Wu Chen in the Earth Supernatural Research Institute has also noticed the weapon. In the previous battle, people like Corvus Glaive were almost instantly killed by him, and Wu Chen naturally didn't pay much attention to the weapons they left behind. But now, since he has seen it, how can he let it go? The right hand probed forward, grabbed directly on the peerless blade, and took it directly. Rocket was still talking incessantly, and wanted to make this deal with Egg, but at this moment, he suddenly saw a hand appear, and immediately hugged it tightly, and was actually pulled by Wu Chen to the Research Institute together. On the Xandar Star, Egg's face was gloomy, and Groot was at a loss. But in the Research Institute, the rocket that was caught here by Wu Chen along with the peerless blade was stunned. Although he did not take part in the Battle of Xandar Star, he was there and saw Wu Chen's crazy battle. This is someone who can single-handedly take on an army as large as Thanos and Ronan. The Thanos Legion, which the whole universe was afraid of, was hanged and beaten by Wu Chen alone. Now, people in the whole universe who have heard of this matter either don't believe it, or they are afraid of Wu Chen to death. Really, can't afford to provoke it. This weapon was picked up by me, and it should be nothing to exchange for a little money, right? Rocket reacted, and he asked in a weak voice. Well, no problem, but now I want this weapon. Wu Chen nodded, and with a casual wave, the rocket was thrown to the side of the chair by him. Rocket sat there and looked around, only to realize that the environment here is actually more advanced than the technology of any place he has come into contact with in the past. Rocket can also be regarded as a scientist, at least in terms of weapon manufacturing, his ability is still good. At the moment, seeing everything in this hall, his heart started to itch. You took my weapon, so you have to pay some money. Rocket's forcibly stand up, he can't allow himself to make a loss-making business. Pay, what do you want? Wu Chen looked at the rocket with great interest. Under the eyes of insight, he had already seen the thoughts in the rocket's heart. He knew that this guy was interested in the equipment here. I think the things you have here are pretty good, or just pick 2 or 3 and give them to me. When the rocket spoke, he immediately came to the console of the research room, staring at a holographic projector above. Although holographic projectors are not uncommon in the Marvel movie universe, Wu Chen's is obviously more realistic and has other more powerful functions. Judging by the rocket's intuition, this thing must be worth a lot of money. There are so many good things here, do you only see this projector? Wu Chen said, and he took out a spear. This is a flaming spear, which can fire flames and summon lightning. On the flame spear, flames burn, and thunder flashes. This is nano armor. Although it is only the size of a palm file on weekdays, it can be turned into an armor covering the whole body immediately after opening, and the material for making the armor is the strongest vibranium on Earth. Wu Chen took out the nano armor again. And this, don't look at it as a small potion, but it can make you bigger or smaller. It's an excellent material for home travel, stealing and robbery. When Wu Chen took out the Pym particle, Scott Lang was confused, and Dr. Pym was also covered in black lines. They all knew that Wu Chen was not really interested in their so-called Pym particle, but Wu Chen wanted to fool the rocket at this time, but used their things, which always felt a little wrong. Especially the last sentence Wu Chen said, stealing and robbing, seems to be deliberately said to Rocket Raccoon. And everything is as Wu Chen expected. After the rocket heard that the Pym particle could grow and shrink, its eyes lit up. Rocket Raccoon is a thief, The kind of thief who can't resist taking someone else's power battery even as a member of the Guardians of Galaxy. The effect of the PIM particle is absolutely attractive to the Rocket, because as long as he gets the PIM particle, it will be convenient for him to steal anything in the future. Okay, that's all. As long as you give me this medicine, I will give you that weapon. Rocket Raccoon can't wait. That can't be done. Although this weapon is somewhat useful, it is not as powerful as my flame spear. I gave you such a useful PIM particle, so am I at a loss. What Wu Chen wanted was to arouse Rocket Raccoon's interest. Then what else do you want? You say, I'll get it for you as soon as Seth. Rocket Raccoon was in a hurry. He didn't even think about it carefully. What was the purpose of Wu Chen doing this? Okay, then I'll say it. Wu Chen continued the routine. Speak. There are 2 animals missing in my research institute. Isn't it just 2 animals? Just tell me what you want. The animals I want can't be ordinary ones. It's easy to handle. I'll go and find it for you. If you can't find it on Earth, I'll find it for you from the universe. There must be something that suits your heart. I want animals that can talk. No problem. It's better to be able to make something small. It's a bit difficult, but still able to find it. You have to have a little habit, like stealing chickens and dogs or something. This, I should be able to find it. Final request, this animal had better be a raccoon. Raccoon, yes, I don't. Rocket Raccoon got stuck in the middle of his words. Isn't this condition just what he said? Feelings. Wu Chen planned to bring him to this institute as a pet from the very beginning. The people who had been watching on the side couldn't help snickering when they saw the raccoon who had just reacted. Even Scarlet Witch looked at Wu Chen with a smile. For the first time, she discovered that Wu Chen would also have funny moments, but he was not that kind of person who only knew how to study supernatural technology and do things vigorously and resolutely. This can't be. How can I keep you as a pet? This is absolutely no good. Rocket Raccoon said that he likes freedom. When he was imprisoned and used for various experiments, what he hated most was those who restrained his freedom and hurt him. Then there is no way, I can't give you this PIM particle. As Wu Chen spoke, the PIM particle had been thrown back into the wormhole by him, and naturally returned to Dr. Pim's laboratory. Don't, we have something to say. Although he didn't like to be bound, he wasn't willing to miss such a good thing. What else is there to say? Wu Chen asked back. Otherwise, let's make a block. You lock me here, and then give me the PIM particle. If I can escape, this thing is mine. If I can't escape, then I'll keep you as a pet. Rocket Raccoon rolled his eyes and had already thought of an idea. He had escaped from prison more than 20 times in a row, and the prisons of the Nova Empire couldn't hold him, let alone a research laboratory. Okay, as long as you speak your mind. Wu Chen agreed without thinking, and the PIM particle was summoned by it again and threw it directly to Rocket Raccoon. Next, just wait and see, the performance of this prison escape master. On Xandar, Egg had already left, because he saw the disappearance of Rocket Raccoon, and he knew that that was Wu Chen's method. The tree Groot remained on Xandar, and it looked everywhere for Rocket Raccoon. On Earth, Rocket Raccoon has begun his journey to escape. Wu Chen and the others have never left the research room since then, and none of the others have any intention to stop Rocket Raccoon. Because, as everyone knows, Rocket Raccoon can't get away. After Rocket Raccoon found a reason to leave the research hall, Wu Chen and others turned on the tracking system of Big Clock, and every move of Rocket Raccoon was broadcast live by Big Clock Zhang. After walking out of the research hall, Rocket Raccoon immediately began to investigate around. He visited every room, found the tools left in every corner, and then started to walk outside the institute. Then, he ran into trouble. An invisible barrier suddenly appeared in front of him, and he couldn't get past it at all. The space-time barrier, the second layer of core defense of the institute, is stronger than the light energy barrier of the first layer. It can not only ignore any attack, but also convert the attack into various energy sources required by the institute. In addition to the void barrier on the third floor at the core of the island, the space-time barrier is the strongest defense on the entire island. At this moment, Rocket Raccoon, facing the sudden appearance of the space-time barrier, fell into a collapse. No matter how hard he tried, there was no way he could change the barrier. He walked around the entire barrier and didn't find any loopholes, let alone the source of the shield. If the source cannot be found, there is no way to destroy it, and if it cannot be destroyed, it is impossible for him to break through. If you can't even get out of the research institute, how can this jailbreak go on? If you use PIM particles, is it possible to cross the barriers of space-time? Wu Chen asked. He saw the dynamics of Rocket Raccoon in the research hall. At this moment, he also remembered the effect of PIM particles, so he wanted to ask. If it's just a reduction in the normal state, it won't be able to penetrate the barriers of time and space. The big clock replied. And what about going into the quantum realm? That is, shrinking the body down to the molecular or even atomic scale. Wu Chen asked, and when he heard the words, quantum realm, Dr. Pym stood up excitedly. The quantum realm, which is what Dr. Pym wants to study most, because his wife is lost in the quantum realm. If the body is reduced to the molecular or smaller atomic level, it can indeed penetrate the light energy barrier, but the space-time barrier is not only a barrier, but also a chaotic and complex space-time field. Stepping into it will be chaotic space-time field. If you interfere, I am afraid you will be completely lost in it. The big clock answered. Originally, the space-time barrier was not an energy barrier, it was a barrier formed by solving the surrounding space wormholes. The light barrier is an energy-type barrier that cannot be penetrated by nuclear bombs, but attacks such as the Heavenly Blade Judgment can be ignored directly. Jie Shaolun / the flagship of the Teoti Legion with a sword on the Heavenly Blade number 7, and the flagship's light energy barriers are stronger than Vanguard flagships. The time and space barriers are different. So many warships of the gluttonous army attack at the same time, and the antimatter bombs such as the Fierce Tide cannot be destroyed. Even Morgana said that the time and space barriers cannot be destroyed. This can be imagined. Even the energy-level weapons cannot destroy the space-time barriers. Originally, the space-time barrier was a twisted wormhole corridor. It did not forcibly intercept the attack, but diverted the attack. Through the transfer of the space-time barrier, various attacks will be transferred to different spaces, plus the large-scale celestial computer that drives the space-time barrier. The computer originally built in the Sky Blade series battleships is also of celestial level, but it is not as good as the big clock. Space-based computing group. It is completely possible to convert and reuse the energy from the attack after being attacked. Well, then, the space-time barrier can prevent the invasion of PIM particles. Wu Chen nodded, agreeing with the big clock's answer. Well, can you tell me what will happen to the PIM particle when it enters the quantum realm? Dr. Pym asked excitedly, too eager to know about the quantum realm. However, the big clock did not immediately answer his question. The big clock belongs to Wu Chen, and only Wu Chen can use it. Even Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, and Vision have only a small part of the authority to access information. Although Dr. Pym has been living in Wu Chen's research institute these days, his identity is a visitor. If he does not have the kind of authority that Wu Chen gave Jane Foster and others before, they may even investigate a certain part of the information. Data permissions are not available. Quote. Dr. Pym turned to look at Wu Chen. But before he had time to ask Wu Chen, he was interrupted by a sudden noise. Rocket Raccoon is back, the guy who wanted to get the PIM particles from Wu Chen through jailbreak. This time it was a complete confession. I was wrong, I was really wrong this time. Rocket Raccoon is downcast. I finally know why you agreed to let me escape from prison. I feel like you are an impregnable wall. You can't escape even if you want to escape. What kind of barrier can't be passed through? Even underground, you have come up with defensive measures. Rocket Raccoon successfully escaped 22 times, but this time, he gave up before he even started. It's not bad for you to give up early. After all, when you go outside the space-time barrier, that's where the real danger is. Scarlet Witch said. What's the meaning? Rocket Raccoon looked at Scarlet Witch suspiciously. Although the space-time barrier is difficult to pass through, there is no special defense system set up inside the space-time barrier, so you are absolutely safe inside. Scarlet Witch said. What about outside the time-space barrier? Rocket Raccoon asked. Out of the space-time barrier, within the distance from the research institute to the outside of the island, there is a set of extremely powerful defensive firepower network. As long as you step into it, the space-based computing system will directly lock you, and all weapon systems will be aimed at you, and you will be hit by thousands of bullets with every step you take. Scarlet Witch said, and her words made Rocket Raccoon's whole body stand up in an instant. Both Star-Lord and Scott Lang were dumbfounded after hearing this. The two of them had tried to enter that area before, one wanted to come in from the outside, the other wanted to go out from the inside. Fortunately, they were all blocked by the light energy barrier and the space-time barrier. Otherwise, wouldn't they have to take the first step and test the attack ability of the weapons system installed outside? So, from the very beginning, you were actually here watching my every move, right? Rocket looked up, and he saw the holographic diffraction pattern in the center of the research hall. He was outside, carefully performing a prison break, and as a result, his entire move was being broadcast live, and he was a joker at all. If you are on Xandar, I can directly arrest you, let alone in this research institute. Wu Chen said, and his words made Rocket Raccoon depressed. It's his own stupidity. No matter how far the Xandar star is from the Earth, even with the best spaceship, it will take 2 or 3 days to reach the nearest space node. Wu Chen can not only transfer people or things on the Xandar star to this place in an instant, but also can complete accurately for the target to be grasped. This ability is simply more divine than God, and it is truly omnipotent. Admit the bet and admit defeat. Now that you have lost, you will be a pet of the Supersoul Research Institute in the future. Scarlet Witch came to Rocket's side and reached out to stroke its forehead. I'm not one of those headless little creatures. Rocket Raccoon complained, but didn't mean to avoid Scarlet Witch's touch. Since you have joined, let's get your companion as well. Wu Chen said. On his right, a space-time wormhole has appeared. Inside the wormhole, the tree Groot came out. This cute tree man who had been looking for Rocket Raccoon all day on Xandar Star finally found the person he was looking for, and a smile appeared on the tree's face. Arranged by Scarlet Witch, Rocket Raccoon and Tree Groot began to officially settle in the Supernatural Institute. After that, Wu Chen entered the second floor. Big Clock has already started to analyze Soul Gem, and Wu Chen will focus on Soul Gem next. Among the 6 infinite gems, the most mysterious one, what Wu Chen wanted to find out most now, was whether this gem was originally the entrance to another dimension. In the laboratory, Wu Chen looked at the orange gem in the middle of the operating table, his eyes focused. So far, are there any new discoveries? Wu Chen asked. The big clock has also shown relevant data at the moment. Through analysis, there is a special energy vortex inside the soul gem, which contains a very large otherworld energy, and also an energy that is extremely similar to the void. All the analysis of the big clock will give priority to the known information in the Super God universe. Soul energy, in the Super God universe, belongs to the category of void, and it is also a discipline that was first contacted and successfully studied by Death God Carl. That is, the so-called spirit body. Void energy. What do you mean? The energy that exists in the soul gem is the most mysterious void that is being researched by the supernatural universe. Wu Chen asked. At the moment when Wu Chen became a god, he was already looking forward to the arrival of the void. In other words, since the moment Wu Chen became a super soldier, he has been looking forward to the moment when he finally masters the power of the void. No, shouldn't void power be more similar to the reality gem? The void controller's ability, like the reality gem, is a direct rewrite of reality. Wu Chen suddenly remembered the role of TIE particles in the previously identified infinite gems ability. Space gems can be compared to micro-wormhole transport technology. Time gem may be related to the most mysterious hourglass in the supernatural universe. The reality gem is equivalent to the void controller, creating matter and rewriting reality. The category of void is not limited to the void controller. The void you know so far is relatively simple, said the big clock. Simple? Well, I really don't know much about the void. Wu Chen said. His past understanding of supernatural technology came from a cartoon. The understanding of super god technology after crossing comes from the big clock. But because of formal contact, to truly master the supernatural technology, Wu Chen needs to start systematically and from the most basic places. The first generation of super genes, from the attributes of various genes to the mastery of various supernatural technologies, in addition to various algorithms, weapon systems. There are so many things Wu Chen needs to learn and understand, and void technology is at the top of the supernatural technology. Wu Chen has only just become the 3rd generation of gods, so naturally he has no way to contact the real void technology. The void, before Death God Carl defined it, actually referred to the ultimate fear, the insurmountable barrier of wisdom technology. Simply put, the universe cannot contain the highest wisdom. If wisdom cannot break through the universe, it cannot be understood. What cannot be understood through scientific logic is the void, and in some respects, it is also similar to the quantum realm. After all, there is often such a sentence in your human cognition, called indecision, quantum mechanics. All that is not understood but really exists can be counted within the scope of the quantum field, that is, within the scope of the void. In Death God Carl's research on the void, he hopes to finally understand the universe originally through the void. And in the Space Principles plan, they intend to go beyond the original universe through the anti-void. In the database of the Big Clock, all the known research on the void and anti-void, and the research records of various gods that have lasted for tens of thousands of years are included. If you can fully grasp the known and break through the research, then you may be able to break the universe. Confinement, truly beyond the void. The Big Clock's detailed description of the void made Wu Chen feel empowered. Even though the supernatural technology mastered by the previous Wu Chen was already very powerful, those super genes and various combat modes and weapons in the supernatural system made him almost invincible in this Marvel movie universe. But now, when he truly understands the void, he realizes that what he has mastered may not be a drop in the ocean. To exist is to be reasonable. The so-called void does not really refer to a certain fixed field, it refers to the unknown among all the known. The development of human beings for thousands of years has finally come out of a road of science and technology. But in the way of technology development, there are still many things that science cannot explain, and these are what void really wants to study. The Space Principles anti-void power. Death God Carl's black hole engine. Heart-wrenching void controller. All of this, the purpose of its existence, is to grasp the known but unknown things in the void, to realize those things that are possible but not grasped. Well, it looks like I still have a lot to learn. Wu Chen couldn't help but sigh. He has been studying the supernatural technology very seriously in the past few years, but now it seems that this kind of learning and mastering is still not enough. A god can't grow up in just a few years. Even if you have the most advanced astronomical computer and a complete set of super god technology materials from the beginning, you can't do it overnight. The Big Clock said, its judgment is the data collected by the super god universe for tens of thousands of years. Each of those main gods who truly stand at the peak of the universe has grown up in the baptism of tens of thousands of years. Even the latest generation of Galaxy Force and others, who spent more than 10 years in a state of careful cultivation by their predecessors, have not been able to reach the level of their leader in their respective fields of expertise. Although the Big Clock provides everything Wu Chen needs, it is actually not as big as a good mentor. Furthermore, Wu Chen does not specialize in a certain field, but in all fields. Morgana devoted all her efforts to guide Du Qiangwei, and she only grew up in time and space. Although she can stand alone, she still cannot reach the height of Morgana. I'm not even a true god if I'm like this now, Wu Chen asked. From the point of view of strength, your strength is no longer lost to any main god in the super god universe, but the judgment of a god is not only based on strength, but also the height of his thinking and the visual height of all things, and the firm belief that belongs to God. The Big Clock replied, faith, isn't God the one who created faith? Why do you still have faith? Wu Chen asked. God creates faith, but he is also loyal to this faith, just as Kesha created the order of justice, and she herself is the firmest believer in justice. In order to maintain this faith, she can even sacrifice her own life. Others such as Morgan, the main gods like Na, Death God Carl are actually the same. The Big Clock said, and Wu Chen seemed to have a feeling when he heard this. The so-called belief is both a pursuit and a belief. It is precisely because of the belief and pursuit in the heart that a god will not lose himself in the years to come. You must know that a person who is at a loss, even if he lives for decades, will live in a muddled state. As a god, in the eternal life, thousands of years have passed. If there is no faith in the heart, it will inevitably be swallowed by nothingness and become a walking corpse. I see what you mean, Wu Chen said. He did understand what the Big Clock wanted to tell him. What I pursued in the past is eternity, and what I pursue in the future will also be eternity. As long as this belief does not die, I can always keep the current mentality and go on. Wu Chen said that in the past 2 years, he has been able to concentrate on researching super God technology, isn't it because he wants to become stronger and truly eternal? Then keep your original intention, and when this original desire is supplemented and finally transformed into your eternal faith, you can call it a true God. The big clock said, and Wu Chen nodded silently. If you can't keep your original intention, the result will be sinking in the years. Wu Chen is very clear about this. Big clock, I've actually been thinking about one thing recently. Wu Chen said. What's up? Asked the big clock. I want to build a group of super fighters myself. To be exact, I want to build a group of angels. After Wu Chen finished speaking, the big clock fell into a brief silence. After a while, the big clock, which integrates all the most cutting-edge technologies in the super God universe, responded. What state of mind, or what purpose do you want to create such a group of angels? Instead of answering, but asking questions, the big clock is asking Wu Chen questions, but it is also examining Wu Chen's heart. Quote. Wu Chen hesitated. Why did he build angel? He just remembered the angel warriors he had seen in the anime. They were beautiful, they had distinct characters, and they liked them when they saw them. Wu Chen thought that in the eternity of the years to come, if there is such a beautiful angel by his side, wouldn't he not be lonely? It is normal for a person or a god to have desires, but what is the difference between creating a life for a certain purpose to please oneself and creating a toy? The big clock said. Its tone sounded a little deep at the moment. In the super god universe, there was originally a god who had your idea. He was once the strongest main god of Angel Nebula, and now he is still active in the super god universe. Hua Yi. Wu Chen spoke the name of that god. That's right, the god who infinitely expands desire is the evil god Hua Yi. Big clock affirmed. It's just that, even for an alternative god like him, his idea of theocracy is better than your current idea. How can that be? Wu Chen said in surprise that his idea was even worse than Hua Yi's concept of theocracy, but he obviously never thought about being as brazen and unrestrained as Hua Yi. Wise desire is just to covet the beauty and power that already exists, but your current idea is to use the data recorded in my big clock to create a doll that obeys your orders. The big clock said, and Wu Chen heard this and completely quieted down. It is originally wrong to forcibly possess and deprive others, but you have to create a life and possess her all, and when you are tired of this life created by you, you will abandon it, to create a new. I do not know. No, you will. Wu Chen's words were interrupted directly by the big clock. She is just a life created by you. You create her for your desires, and you will naturally abandon her for new desires. In normal life communication, even if you are with one person and then separate, both parties are just returning to their own lives. But this life created by you, the meaning of her birth and everything that exists, are all because of you. Now that you have abandoned her, she will be completely lost. If you want to destroy her in order to prevent her from being lost, then you mentally more distorted. So, from the moment you gave birth to this idea, you have already taken the first step towards sinking. When the big clock's words came to this point, they did not continue. But hearing Wu Chen here, the whole person was stunned in place. Human nature is inherently fragile, and after mastering the omnipotent power, once you really go the wrong way, you will sink and never recover. The topic may be a bit heavy, but this is an idea I suddenly developed. Since I have written it, I will take the risk and let everyone see it. I am waiting for readers to criticize greatly. Sorry, I was wrong. Wu Chen knew that his idea was wrong. He can also understand why the big clock has such a reaction on this issue, because the last time it was on Xandar, the super gene system mentioned the moral initiative of the Kamigawa civilization. The big clock was created by Dinghe, the main god of the Kamigawa civilization, and was demonstrated by the headmaster of space roaming the universe. Although death god Karl himself is not very concerned about the moral concept of the so-called Kamigawa civilization, he can even use any means to achieve his own purpose. But in the database of the big clock, there is more information about the gods of the Kamigawa civilization. That's why I said a long time ago that to become a god is not something that can be done in a few years. Said the big clock. Having a strong power is different from having a firm mind. Powerful power can be directly improved through technology and external things, but a firm mind can only be achieved by relying on your life experience and the precipitation of time. Eventually become a truly qualified god. Wu Chen has written down what the big clock said. There is no necessary relationship between having great power and being a true god. Knowing how to use these powerful powers and being able to hold on to your true beliefs for thousands of years is the key to becoming a god in the end. Now, you already have the third-generation divine body, and you will not be threatened in this universe for the time being in terms of strength. It's better to calm down first, and first use the power you have acquired and the knowledge you have learned in the previous period. Then digest it well, and then precipitate it into its own essence. Big Clock gave the final advice. Wu Chen nodded. He used to be non-stop to get more power, and then to take infinite gems in order not to be affected by the big events in the Marvel movie universe. In the past few years since the time traveled, he really hadn't really relaxed his body and mind, and hadn't really realized that he was a normal life as a tech god. The research on Soul Gem will take time, and the upgrade of the fourth-generation divine body will also take time. In the current Marvel movie universe, nothing can threaten me, so I will follow your advice and calm down for a while. Wu Chen knew that the path he had taken before was too anxious, and the main god of Wu Chen is more like a seedling. He has too many super gene abilities in his body, and until now, Wu Chen used them more like constantly switching. Use Norman Wars or Sunlight to fight powerful opponents. In the melee of Xandar Star, Wu Chen used the super gene to defeat the Buddha. While judging Gila and Thanos, Wu Chen opened the final trial of the power of the galaxy. Although the switch is very fast, and with the help of the Big Clock, Wu Chen can exert the same power, but there are differences after all. Wu Chen needs time to adjust his mentality now, and naturally he has enough time to completely integrate these super genes he has. Then, I'll contact you after Soul Gem's analysis results. The Big Clock said, and Wu Chen no longer paid attention to Soul Gem. The analysis of infinite gems cannot be done overnight, and it may be counterproductive to forcibly accelerate the calculation by burning fixed stars. Since Wu Chen needs to be quiet, it is better to let all this slow down. Wu Chen left the laboratory, and Soul Gem remained there, and the Big Clock continued to conduct independent analysis. Wu Chen only needed to spend some time occasionally to check the progress of the analysis. It was also from the moment Wu Chen walked out of the laboratory that his mentality began to adjust. He no longer walked in a fast pace, but slowed down and dealt with the next things with the vision of a normal person. He did not concentrate on the research of supernatural technology, did not always pay attention to the situation of the Earth and the universe, but just faced everything around him normally. Well, normal people, what should I do now? Wu Chen came to Scarlet Witch. He has been a tech madman for several years, but now he suddenly wants to return to reality, but he doesn't know how to start. Normal people, what do you mean? Scarlet Witch was a little confused. She didn't understand, how could Wu Chen suddenly ask herself such a question? The Big Clock tells me that I have been too addicted to it in order to gain strength in recent years, and my mind and heart are easily lost, so let me slow down first and settle myself. Wu Chen didn't hide it from Scarlet Witch, after all, she was his woman anyway. After Wu Chen crossed over, everything in this world had nothing to do with him, and now, Scarlet Witch has become the first one. Big Clock's proposal is quite good. Quote, Scarlet Witch smiled, she had never been more fond of the Big Clock than she was now. Do you also think that the way I used to live was wrong? Wu Chen asked. It's not that it's wrong. Scarlet Witch shook his head. Everyone is different, you have been tied to the supernatural technology in your life, and your future is to continue to move forward on this path of the supernatural technology, so it is only natural that you were immersed in it before, definitely. After Wu Chen listened to Scarlet Witch's words, he nodded slightly. But being immersed in research is also prone to problems, just like the previous Stark. If he hadn't been too obsessed with research, he wouldn't have gotten Ultron out and made it a supervillain. Scarlet Witch has a deep understanding of this. Wu Chen heard this, and in his heart Wang Ma Zhao also thought of an example. That is the death god Karl of the supernatural universe, and he is a typical scientific lunatic. Concentrating on the exploration of void technology, he finally fell into it completely, and even for the sake of void, he did not hesitate to turn himself into an illusory body, and he did not hesitate to involve the entire universe in endless wars. Just imagine, if Death God Karl didn't go all the way to black like that. In other words, the trace of love he had for Morgana was not wiped out in the cradle, so he and Morgana eventually became a couple, and the two of them moved forward hand in hand and kept their hearts right in the end. Will it not fall? The ultimate goal is beautiful, but the scenery along the way is also worth admiring. People should not go all the way to the dark. Collect the flowers along the way. Go forward together with fellow travelers, take the wind, frost and sunshine, and finally reach the destination pursued in your heart, in order to make the scenery there more pleasant. Wu Chen and Scarlet Witch are together, and basically everything is arranged by Scarlet Witch. Just like a normal person, Scarlet Witch took him to enjoy life and take him to feel the fireworks. At a time when all superhero on Earth are depressed under the influence of Superhero Registration Act, Wu Chen and Scarlet Witch are the two people who live the most happy life. 3 days later, a spaceship appeared outside Wu Chen's research institute, and that was the Predator Yondu who came from the universe. He was here to find Star-Lord. Maybe it's because I heard about Wu Chen on the way here, the cosmic pirate who is domineering in the universe, but this time he is uncharacteristically polite. Star-Lord had been holding back in Wu Chen's research institute for so long, and it was hard to wait until Yondu's spaceship just landed on the beach, and Star-Lord ran directly over. Those on the Yondu ship immediately drew their guns the moment they saw Star-Lord, but as soon as their guns were drawn, the island's defense system was automatically activated, and countless automatic artillery directly aimed at those who drew their guns. This is the Supernatural Institute, and any unapproved weapons may not be used. The sound of the big clock came, and those cosmic pirates all stayed in place at the moment. Put down your weapons for me. Have you all forgotten what I said to you before you came? Yondu shouted loudly, and those pirates reacted and slowly put down their guns. The vast majority of those pirates are extremely vicious people, and they also have antipathy. The sound of the big clock rang in the minds of Wu Chen and Scarlet Witch. So, what do you think we should do? Wu Chen looked back at Scarlet Witch. This is a father-son situation, and we can't get involved. Scarlet Witch said. That is to say, let's eat melon together. As Wu Chen said, he brought 2 reclining chairs and sat down leisurely. Yes, let's just watch and eat melons silently. Scarlet Witch smiled and sat down beside Wu Chen. Wu Chen made a random move, and a fresh watermelon appeared in his hand. Ahead, Star-Lord and Yondu were arguing about his biological father, and the quarrel was in full swing. In the back, Wu Chen and Scarlet Witch, holding a piece of watermelon in each hand, were happily nibbling on it. The two of them were arguing hotly. Outside, Quicksilver and Vision were fighting with Senator Ross and the others, but the two of you were still able to eat melons here leisurely. You two really have big hearts. Scott Lang came to Wu Chen, and he has been locked here recently, just watching Wu Chen and Scarlet Witch fall in love there. Then, do you want, Seth, not to eat melons together? Wu Chen said, cut off a piece of watermelon and handed it to Scott Lang. Okay. He hesitated for a moment, but in the end Scott Lang took the watermelon and sat on a chair that Wu Chen had brought with him using a micro wormhole. 3 people, sitting in a row, continued to eat melons. You said you wanted to eat me, but now you tell me that you want to protect me. Star-Lord roared there. Don't you think that's funny? Yondu replied. What's so funny? Star-Lord said. The scene of this dialogue is very similar to the one in the movie, but unfortunately, there is no Rocket Raccoon to cheer them on this time. By the way, what about Rocket and Groot? Wu Chen thought of Rocket Raccoon, and then he noticed that he had never seen Rocket Raccoon and Tree Groot today. The two guys are now planning to break into Yondu's spaceship and leave in an escape boat. The big clock replied. Oh, Wu Chen raised his head, a flash of white light flashed in his eyes, and he saw the picture inside the Yondu spacecraft. Really, this is about to take off. Wu Chen said, but the next moment, the Rocket Raccoon and Tree Groot appeared beside Wu Chen out of thin air. The two of them were still excitedly preparing just now, thinking that they could escape from the Earth. As a result, before he could laugh, he was arrested. I knew, I thought this would be a good opportunity. Rocket Raccoon said, beating his chest. Come on, it's been a lot of work to sneak around for such a long time, eat a piece of melon and rest. Scarlet Witch took a piece of watermelon from Wu Chen's hand and sent it to Rocket Raccoon. Although Rocket Raccoon was very depressed, he did not refuse the watermelon sent by Scarlet Witch, and took a bite directly. Yeah, sweet, it's delicious to eat. What is this? Rocket Raccoon looked at Scarlet Witch curiously. Watermelon. Scarlet Witch replied. Watermelon. Well, I remember this thing. If I can escape in the future, I will definitely take a boat with me. Rocket Raccoon said, and began to enjoy the fun of eating melons. I'm Groot. Tree Groot's words always sound like this. But in the past few days, the big clock has already collected information about the prophecy of the tree people, and successfully made a translation program so Wu Chen can understand Groot's words. Here, try it too. Wu Chen gave Groot a piece of watermelon. As a result, the melon-eating crowd added another tree and a raccoon. Star-Lord, who was still arguing with Yondu, suddenly turned around and saw the guys sitting in the row eating melons, and he was stunned. What is this all about? His serious matter here was actually regarded as entertainment gossip by those guys, and he was so naturally eating melons on the side. The one who sits in the middle is the Eternal Sun, who is rumored in the universe and who single-handedly defeated Thanos and Ronin's combined army. Yongdu looked at Wu Chen. On the way he came, he did receive some news from the universe about the news on Xandar. Eternal Sun. Star-Lord looked at Yongdu suspiciously. This is what the people of Xandar said, and the people who defeated Thanos called themselves Eternal, but Eternal is the legendary god who created the universe, so people called him Roar, the Son of Eternity. Yongdu said, Son of Eternity. He definitely won't like this Roar, but he created a precedent, relying on technology to eventually surpass the existence of the gods. How could he be resigned to the others? Star-Lord said, he has lived here for so long, and he knows something about Wu Chen. This is a guy who doesn't want to be bound by anyone and doesn't like being threatened by anyone. You don't have to worry about this, you just need to know whether he can protect you and keep you from being taken away by your bald dad. What Yongdu cared about most was the safety of Xingju, and when Xingju heard what he said, his heart warmed. After that, the conversation between the two was no longer as tit-for-tat as before. However, Wu Chen had already heard the conversation they thought only they could hear. Eternal Sun. Meaning, am I the heir of the eternal God who created this universe? Wu Chen's face darkened. He never thought that the eternal words he casually said on Xandar Star would be interpreted as this. Eternal, one of the only 5 gods that has appeared in the Marvel movie universe, he is originally beyond the universe, standing at the pinnacle of the multi-universe, under the premise of unknown to the specific differences between movies and comics, he is the strongest known existence in the Marvel movie universe. The big clock said that this information was collected from Asgard, Xandar and other cosmic civilizations, and then combined with Wu Chen's own brain memory data to make judgments. The power of eternity, perhaps the only one in the universe that can surpass infinite gems. Wu Chen also knew very well what eternity was like. The 6 infinite gems are all in your hands, and you have modified the infinity gauntlet to a file size that fits your palm. From this point of view, you can already dominate the entire Marvel movie universe. Said the big clock. Yeah, with infinite gems and infinity gauntlet, I can literally snap my fingers and decide everything. When Wu Chen was talking to the big clock, he summoned the infinity gauntlet. The appearance of this scene immediately attracted the attention of Scarlet Witch and Star-Lord, and others. But they all understood that Wu Chen was probably thinking about something more important at this time, so no one dared to disturb him. However, I made my fortune with supernatural technology, and the eternity I pursue is also based on supernatural technology, so, unless it is a last resort, I still don't like the ability to use the infinite gem stone. Wu Chen put away the infinity gauntlet. Previously, when facing any opponent, Wu Chen used the ability of super god technology to fight for this reason. Very good, this is also a kind of sticking to your original heart. It seems that you have the potential to become a god, and it doesn't necessarily take that long to become a real god in the end. Said the big clock. Hee, is that count? Wu Chen didn't expect that his simple thoughts would still have such an effect. Standing to your heart is the most crucial point of becoming a god. You can always believe in the super god technology you are researching, which originally requires perseverance. Said the big clock. Maybe. Wu Chen did not continue to struggle on this. In the future, pay attention to the news about eternity, as well as information about the other 4 gods, and those powerful characters that have appeared in the comics. Wu Chen said, yes, I will pay special attention in the process of retrieving the universe. The big clock answered, well, although this is the Marvel movie universe, There are many differences between it and the comics, but since eternity has appeared, then the four of infinity, annihilation, death and planet devourer may also exist. Wu Chen doesn't care about any superhero that exists in ordinary concepts, but the various, invincible settings, in the Marvel Comics universe are Wu Chen's biggest headache. At every turn, it is the creator or destroyer of all multi-universes, as well as the life cord and OAA that stand above the gods. Although it is messy, if it is really set, it will be more invincible than the other. If Chen wants to compete with super god technology alone, there is really no way to do it. I understand. All the information included in the big clock is within a reasonable range and can be parsed, so it is also very disgusting to those nonsense settings in the Marvel Comics universe originally. But disgust is disgust. If they really exist, Wu Chen must find a way to deal with them. As Wu Chen's biggest assistant, the big clock must understand them as much as possible. After receiving the reply from the big clock, Wu Chen also took back his thoughts. However, no matter how calm he was on the surface, he still had a great fear of the five gods in his heart. Did something happen? Scarlet Witch approached Wu Chen and asked softly. No, I just suddenly thought of something, so I asked the big clock to help me investigate. Wu Chen shook his head. There is no need for him to tell Scarlet Witch about things like the five gods, because they are sure and can't help much. Raising his head and looking forward, the problem between Xing Lord and Yongdu seems to have finally been resolved, and the two of them are reconciled. The two walked towards Wu Chen together. All figured out. Wu Chen looked at Star-Lord. He always wanted to personally confirm whether Egg was his biological father, and now he should have the answer. Star-Lord nodded, and then spoke again. Ego killed my mother, and I'm going to seek revenge for him. Star-Lord's words are very firm. But I know that I can't be his opponent at all by relying on my own strength. Therefore, I hope to get your help. I want you to give me a weapon that is powerful enough for me to seek revenge from him. Star-Lord is here to ask Wu Chen for help. Just based on your strength, even if I give you a weapon that can destroy Egg, I'm afraid you can't really hurt Egg's body. Wu Chen said. Is he really that strong? Star-Lord asked suspiciously. Ego is from the Celestial clan, and his past acquisition is the same as that of the Celestial ancestor, because its body is a planet. If you want to kill him, you must blow up that planet directly. Wu Chen said. What? To blow up a planet to kill him? Both Xingju and Yongdu shouted out in surprise, and those sitting next to Wu Chen were also surprised at the moment. It is not difficult to blow up a planet. Wu Chen didn't care about this at all. The difficulty is that with your ability, you can't control the kind of weapon that can directly destroy the planet directly. You have to break into the interior of the planet and find its core before you can destroy it. Wu Chen said. Breaking into the interior of the planet. That's too dangerous. If he misses, Quill will be caught by Egg, and at that time, he can officially implement his plan to annex the entire universe. Through the big clock, Scarlet Witch already knew what the guy named Egg was going to do with Star-Lord, so she couldn't help worrying when she heard Wu Chen say that Star-Lord was going to break into Egg's body. If it really reaches that point, I will directly attack Egg's body. At that time, you who are inside the planet will also be destroyed by me. Wu Chen said. Even if you know this, are you going to take revenge yourself? Wu Chen asked. He was a little curious at the moment, what kind of decision Star-Lord would make. I go. Star-Lord responded. I must avenge the revenge of killing my mother. This is something that Star-Lord has already thought about in the recent short period of time. As long as he confirms that Egg is the murderer who killed his mother, he must seek revenge for Egg, even if he wants to die with him for this, he doesn't care. Star-Lord has made up his mind, and Wu Chen will not say anything more. He chose a flame-level weapon from the arsenal and gave it to Star-Lord, which was considered to be in response to Star-Lord's request, and gave him a weapon that could destroy the core of planet Egg. Wu Chen would not be stingy with flame-level weapons, because these weapons were not ranked in Wu Chen's arsenal originally, and they were extremely numerous. Furthermore, all the weapons taken out from Wu Chen are under the control of the Big Clock's database. As long as Wu Chen is willing, these weapons can be summoned back at any time. Are you really going to let Star-Lord deal with Egg alone? Scarlet Witch asked. At the moment, she and Wu Chen were looking at the holographic projection in the research hall, and the holographic projection showed that the Superhero Registration Act Response Department was formed in Europe with the alliance of various countries. 7. Teams of Quicksilver and Vision negotiating. Although Wu Chen does not intend to intervene in these things inside the Earth now. But Vision and Quicksilver are Wu Chen's subordinates no matter what. The two of them continue to run around outside. If he ignores them completely, it would be too indifferent. Star-Lord will not be alone. Yongdu will definitely be reluctant to let Star-Lord go by himself. Rocket Raccoon may also want to join in the fun. Maybe, Scott will also follow. Wu Chen said. Rocket, Scott, will they follow? Scarlet Witch wondered. To make sure nothing goes wrong, we're going to. Wu Chen said. Egg's goal is the entire universe, and once Star-Lord arrives on his planet, then Egg will have the foundation to realize his plan. Without this foundation, Yigo Wu Chen can ignore it for the time being, but with this foundation, Wu Chen must eradicate it as soon as possible. Because, Egg's devouring other planets will not hurt Wu Chen, but the relationship between the two of them has already been formed. Once Egg completes the devouring of other planets, its power will expand to the real-level universe. Ego will definitely come to Wu Chen for revenge at the first time. Without using infinite gems, Wu Chen has no absolute certainty that he can defeat Egg in that state. Therefore, he wants to go to the location of Egg's body, and when he is sure that Star-Lord can't defeat Egg, he will personally take action and blow up Egg's body directly. Am I going to? Scarlet Witch was a little surprised. This was her first time leaving the Earth with Wu Chen. Yeah, just take it as a trip to outer space with me. Wu Chen said. Okay, I'll go get ready now. Scarlet Witch said and got up to pack up. No, there's everything on the ship. Wu Chen said, and at the same time as his voice fell, outside the research institute, in the deep sea, a spaceship was slowly floating up. As early as after the Ultron incident, Wu Chen had asked Big Clock to start building a spaceship of his own, and now, the spaceship has been officially completed. It is made of the strongest vibranium on Earth mixed with other metal materials, and its core is built with the most advanced supernatural technology. Although in terms of scale, this spacecraft is not comparable to a Celestial-class spacecraft such as Tianren 7, but its performance is no less than that of a Celestial-class spacecraft. At least, it is stronger than the Mount Dangshan. Outside the Institute, Yondu, Xinglord and others, at the moment, all noticed the spaceship rising from the bottom of the sea. All over the world, the military satellites of various countries also quickly discovered the movement here. Those top-level agents and the core forces of those countries already knew that a new huge spaceship was emerging. With the supernatural technology mastered by Wu Chen, it is actually very easy to make such a spaceship undetectable. But this time, Wu Chen wanted to get the spacecraft out in such an open and above-board manner. He deliberately let all the people in the world see the launch of the spacecraft. The first activation of eternal light requires mobilizing a huge amount of fixed star energy as the activation energy, and you have to go and control it yourself. The sound of the big clock rang in the hall of the research room. And eternal light is the name of the spaceship Wu Chen. Okay. After Wu Chen finished speaking, he immediately stood up. When he stepped out, he had already walked from the hall of the research room to the energy warehouse of eternal light. Scarlet Witch also stood up at this moment, and she walked to the corridor outside, looking up at the sky. The next moment, she saw something she had never seen before. The originally sunny weather turned dark in an instant, and the entire Earth's sunlight disappeared at this moment. The fixed star energy that is constantly radiating from outside the Earth's temperature that is constantly rising under the blessing of the global greenhouse effect, is now dropping at an extremely fast rate. What the hell is going on here? Look, the sun seems to be getting darker. Temperatures are dropping rapidly. Is an ice age coming? People who don't know why are panicking. In the Avengers base, Stark has also noticed the situation here. Sir, all the energy on the entire Earth seems to have been taken away, and the place where this energy is absorbed seems to be where the Supernatural Institute is located. Reporting to Stark on Friday. Wu Chen, what is he going to do? Stark's face was solemn, but no matter how anxious he was at the moment, there was nothing he could do, because he knew that he didn't have the ability to go to the Supernatural Research Institute to question Wu Chen. The global fixed star energy is lost, the temperature in the atmosphere will begin to drop at an extremely fast rate, and after 24 hours, the entire Earth will completely enter an ice age. Friday said, and Stark knew that. For human beings, sunrise and sunset are normal, and it is not a bad thing that the sun disappears for more than hours. On the contrary, it can give tired people a time to rest. But for the Earth, without the sun, even if only for a few hours, it would be fatal. It's like a stove that is always burning. In order to keep the temperature of the stove inside, the fire under the stove will never stop. But suddenly one day, the fire in the stove suddenly went out, and without the continuous burning of the flame, the temperature would begin to drop, and the rate of decline would be faster and faster. The Earth's temperature has risen by less than 1 degree over the past decade, and the resulting changes have huge amounts of impact on humanity. Today, if the temperature drops by several degrees in one day, the impact it will have is comparable to that of an apocalyptic catastrophe. Stark was about to contact all the other superheroes and the military, but the phenomenon of absorbing sunlight suddenly disappeared. Wu Chen's recharging of the eternal light only lasted 2 or 3 hours. Sir, the fixed star energy is restored and the Earth's temperature begins to stabilize. Update to Stark on Friday. In this case, Wu Chen should have calculated that in more than 2 hours, the Earth's surface temperature dropped by 2 degrees, although this may cause some small local disasters, but for the entire Earth, it's a huge benefit. Friday's assessment of this event is optimistic, because in its judgment of an artificial intelligence, this event is a good thing for the Earth. But at the moment, Stark didn't have the heart to pay attention to this. That Wu Chen took away all the solar energy on the Earth in an instant, that is to say, Wu Chen could control the fate of the entire Earth in the blink of an eye. Friday, call me Rogers. Stark said. Outside the research institute, in the cab of the Eternal Light, Wu Chen has already sat down in the driver's seat. Scarlet Witch, Rocket Raccoon, Treeman Groot, Ant-Man Scott Lang, all 4 of them at the moment have also come here. Is this the spaceship you built? It looks pretty good. Rocket Raccoon looked around. He was a person who traveled around in the universe. He had seen many spacecraft of civilizations in the universe, but Wu Chen's ship obviously looked a little different. It's just modeled on the Mangdang Mountain. Although some modifications have been made in some details, the performance is roughly similar. Wu Chen said. Mangdang Mountain. Rocket Raccoon is dazed. Wu Chen didn't intend to explain it. Anyway, even if it was explained, he couldn't understand it. After all, he had never seen the Mangdang Mountain built by the Black Great Wall in the Super God universe. Big Clock, inform Star-Lord and Yondu, let's go now. Wu Chen said, and the Big Clock immediately sent the news that he was going to the star field where Egg was located. Yondu responded quickly, and the 2 spaceships lifted off one after another. In the Earth's atmosphere, a large spacecraft like Eternal Light cannot use wormholes, because the calculation target is too large, and the calculation is likely to be unstable under the influence of various factors in the Earth. Therefore, they all need to enter space first, and then they can open the worm bridge for teleportation flight. The coordinates marked on your monitor are not very close, and we may have to go through dozens of space jumps alone. Rocket Raccoon looked at the star map and said, if you use your technology, you really need to find all connected cosmic wormholes to shuttle, but for me, it's not necessary. Wu Chen said, under the aerospace-grade technology, interstellar travel needs to rely on the space wormholes that exist in the universe. Therefore, their interstellar travel needs to first reach the entrance of a space wormhole, and then pass through each adjacent wormhole not far away, jumping. But after entering the era of super God technology, wormholes can be opened directly through more advanced technology. That is to say, as long as you know the coordinate information of the other party, you can directly open a wormhole connecting 2 places and travel directly with the shortest distance, past. In the Super God universe, Tianren 7 is directly transferred from the Angel Nebula to the solar system in this way, and if the gluttonous army wants to carry out such space transfer, it must go to the Pluto Worm Bridge station built in advance by Death God Carl. Only then can. At the moment, Wu Chen was going to the star field where Yigo was located. Under the condition that he knew Yigo's coordinates in advance, he naturally let the Big Clock open the direct wormhole to save time. Wormhole is ready. A moment later, the Big Clock made a prompt. Okay, let Yondu and their ships follow. After Wu Chen finished speaking, he was the first to operate the Eternal Light and enter the wormhole. Yondu, who was following behind him, was in a daze as he looked at the place where the Eternal Light disappeared. Our navigation map here shows that there is no space wormhole nearby. Why does one suddenly appear here? Yongdu said. Wu Chen's ability cannot be judged by common sense. After all, he can travel through time and space by himself, and he can easily transfer me from Xandar to Earth. Xingju spent some time in the Chaoshan Research Institute, but he already knew something about Wu Chen's superb methods. First, it absorbs the entire Earth's sunlight at once, and then directly opens the wormhole leading to the universe. This eternal sun is really just like the legends of those on the Xandar star. He is simply an omnipotent god. Yongdu said. Okay, hurry up and follow, I can't help it anymore, I have to teach my father a lesson. Xingju's thought of this collapse is very firm, and his mood is also very urgent. Okay, Yondu said, and then started the spaceship directly and flew towards the position where the eternal light just disappeared. In just a moment, they entered the wormhole, and on the other side of the wormhole was the star field where Egg was located. The eternal light has stopped in front, and Egg's body is constantly changing at this moment. That's my father. Star-Lord looked at the planet that was much smaller than the Earth and asked. That's right, that's where Egg is on planet. It was not the first time for Yongdu to come here. He knew more about this planet than everyone present. The big clock has detected that on that planet, a lot of traps and defensive weapons have been prepared. Do you still plan to go in and blow up its core? Wu Chen's voice came over, and he, who arrived here first, has already scanned Egg's body. Obviously, Egg has been strengthening his own armament after the last battle with Wu Chen. Therefore, although Egg's body is still a planet, this planet has completely changed, becoming a huge amount of ammunition depot. I have the weapons and armor you gave me, and I already have part of his bloodline in my body, which means that I can also use part of the divine power on this planet. Star-Lord said, at the moment, he is fully armed. So, even if I know this is a trap, I must go inside and try to find it. Star-Lord said, well, now that you have decided, I will send you to Egg's planet. After Wu Chen finished speaking, a small wormhole had appeared in front of Star-Lord. Take a step forward, and you will be able to reach the core area of Egg's body. Star-Lord put on a vibranium battle suit obtained from Wu Chen, held the flame-level weapon given by Wu Chen, and walked directly into the wormhole. At the core of Yigo's body, a duplication of Yigo has been stationed here. This celestial god, the moment he saw Wu Chen's spaceship appear, he already realized that the other party is very likely to kill him, and the best way to kill him is to destroy his planet, core. Therefore, Egg was waiting here early, in the space closest to the core of his planet. However, what he did not expect was that the first person to cross over would be Star-Lord. It's you, my son, I didn't expect it to be you. Xing-Lord was very excited. He had been looking for Xing-Lord these days. He thought that after being taken away by Wu Chen, he would have no chance. However, he did not expect that Star-Lord would come to the door by himself today. I ask you, did you kill my mother? Star-Lord raised the weapon in his hand and aimed it at Egg, who was standing in front of him at the moment. How did you know? Egg looked at Star-Lord in surprise. No one but himself should know about the fact that he planted cancer cells on Star-Lord's mother. If you say that, you mean that it is true. Star-Lord's expression became even more angry. I'm out of desperation. If I don't do this, I'm afraid I will. Give me death. Star-Lord did not give Egg a chance to continue. He had to come here in person, in large part because he wanted to question Egg himself whether he really did this. But now, he has got the answer. This is really what Egg did. He had imagined countless times that his father was the one who killed his mother who loved him the most. Pulling the trigger in his hand, a strong laser shot out from the gun, and its energy impact shattered Egg's duplication in an instant. Flame-level weapons, their attack power is strong, it can be seen. I'm your father, you want to kill me. Egg's voice came. At the same time, the rock tentacles connected by white rays of light were attacking the Star-Lord. Although Star-Lord was wearing vibranium armor, such an attack would still cause him damage, and once he was entangled in tentacles, it would be impossible for him to break free. The moment you are going to kill my mother, you should have thought that it will end like this today. Star-Lord kept dodging, and the attacks of the weapons in his hands continued. Every time he shoots, he will destroy a tentacle, and from time to time, he will aim the weapon at the position of the core, and he wants to directly break through the rock defenses on the outer layer of the core. After realizing Star-Lord's actions, Egg began to constantly gather more rocks to the periphery of the planet's core, and he wanted to strengthen the protection of his own core. But at the same time, he was still trying to convince Star-Lord. Son, you and I are both gods, your lifespan is eternal, and together you and I will have the power to rule the entire universe. At that time, we can do whatever we want and do everything we want to do. Egg said. But at the moment, Star-Lord has been too lazy to talk nonsense with him, just constantly attacking. However, he still has to rely on the flesh after all, while Egg can control everything on this planet. Even though the destructive power of the flame-level weapon is not bad, the vibranium armor also allowed him to avoid a lot of damage, but he still fell into a hard fight and became more and more passive. Son, if you can't beat me, you should give up your resistance, and cooperate with me obediently. Together, we will become the masters of this universe. Egg continued to persuade, and Star-Lord at the moment, still did not speak. Inside the eternal light, Wu Chen and the others were watching what was happening on the battlefield at the moment. Xing Lord's current combat effectiveness is not weak, but on that planet, no matter how he fights, he will still be at a disadvantage, and he won't be able to last long. Scarlet Witch said, if he fails, we will directly attack this planet, but at that time, Star-Lord will probably become dust in the universe together with this planet. Wu Chen said, well, do you really have a way to destroy a planet directly? Rocket Raccoon asked curiously. This spaceship is equipped with antimatter bombs, and as long as the antimatter bomb is pushed at the speed of light to attack, it is enough to destroy the planet. Wu Chen said, but in fact, in addition to antimatter bombs, the means he can use to blow up the planet include Heavenly Blade Judgment, Heavenly Scourge Bombing, Solar Flare, God-Killing Axe. Supernatural technology may not be able to destroy the entire universe at every turn like those set characters in the Marvel Comics universe. But to blow up the planet, it is still easy. After all, it is not difficult for the gluttonous army of aerospace-level technology to blow up the planet, and other civilizations with god-level technology are naturally even easier. Don't use those weapons yet, Quill can definitely beat that ball. Quote. Yondu's voice came, and then, everyone saw that he was commanding his men, driving the battleship, and rushed towards Egg's planet. Sure enough, Yondu is going to join the battle. Scarlet Witch saw this scene and remembered what Wu Chen had said to her when she was on Earth before. At the moment, the surface of Planet Egg is full of all kinds of traps and weapons. Yondu and his men rushed in from the front so straight, I'm afraid it's going to be a disaster. Wu Chen said, and almost as soon as his voice fell, the situation changed. Those fighter jets that were still quickly approaching the body of Planet Egg were suddenly attacked by a burst of white light. These white rays are lasers composed of pure energy. As long as they are hit by this laser, those fighter planes will be destroyed in an instant. In the movie, Egg had a record of defeating Sovereign's entire drone team in an instant. At this moment, facing the fighters of Yondu and the others, he can naturally deal with it easily. Go on for me, Yondu shouted. However, there were not many people who obeyed his orders. Except for the part killed by Egg's attack just now, the rest turned around and ran away. Those looters who followed Yondu in order to burn, kill and loot eventually defected. Looking at this scene, Yondu felt helpless in his heart, but he had no psychological understanding. If his subordinates don't follow him, he will rush over alone. Even if he really wants to die, he will help Star-Lord. My dear father is ruthless, but this adoptive father really cares about him. Wu Chen sighed with emotion. Why don't you help him? Scarlet Witch said, okay, if you ask me to help, I'll help him. Wu Chen looked back at Scarlet Witch, and then turned his attention back to the battlefield ahead. Big Clock, activate remote support, and get a shield for Yondu's spaceship, so that he can enter the planet smoothly. Wu Chen said, and at the same time, an energy shield had appeared on the periphery of Yondu's spaceship. Egg's original attacks from the inside of the planet, now falling on the energy shield, did not work at all. Yondu successfully entered the interior of the planet, relying on his whistle and arrow. He helped Star-Lord block a tentacle in time and merged with Star-Lord. Even if there is one more Yondu, they still have no chance of winning in the battle with Egg. The sound of the big clock rang. There is no chance of winning, if it can be won, it can only be because of a miracle. Wu Chen said, the Marvel movie universe is full of such wonders, especially with Star-Lord. The first time he formed Guardians of Galaxy to defeat Ronan, he actually relied on an awkward dance. If Ronan didn't pay attention to him at that time, or paid a little attention to the situation around him, then Ronan would never lose. Killing Egg for the second time is even more unreasonable. With Egg's strength, destroying a fleet is just a wave of his hand, but when dealing with Guardians of Galaxy, he can't kill a single person. Although, existence is fact, and miracle is also a kind of strength. But the current Egg is different from the one in the movie. After the battle with Wu Chen, Egg has obviously realized that his strength is not so strong in this universe. In order to deal with Wu Chen's in revenge, he even armed the entire planet early. Especially where the core of his planet is, the outer layer of defense is extremely thick, and all the cracks have been sealed long ago. Like the original book, the tree Groot ran in with a bomb after being reduced in size. Impossible to happen. Since there is no chance of winning, why did you let them deal with Egg? Rocket Raccoon asked. It was Xing Lord's own request. He wants to avenge his own mother killing. I have no reason to refuse. Wu Chen said. Then you can actually give him more help. Ant-Man also opened his mouth to ask. I can certainly help, but, for what? Wu Chen asked back. He and Star-Lord knew each other at most, and had nothing to do with anything else, so why did he help him for no reason? Aren't you going to deal with Egg yourself? You have said before that Egg's ultimate goal is to rule the entire universe, and he will threaten you at that time. Rocket Raccoon said, well, I really want to deal with Egg, then, I'll do it now and blow up that planet directly with an antimatter bomb. After Wu Chen finished speaking, he raised his right hand and wanted to press a red button on the console. It's better to wait, when Xing Lord and Yongdu really can't hold on. Scarlet Witch spoke up. She was more nosy than Wu Chen. How about you? What do you think? Wu Chen looked back at Rocket Raccoon and Ant-Man Scott. You wait, we'll go inside and rescue Quill and Yondu together, and it won't be too late for you to blow up by then. Rocket pulled out a gun, and Ant-Man was ready to fight. Well, I'll wait for you for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, I will launch an antimatter bomb. If you still stay on that planet, you will only be killed by an antimatter bomb with that planet. Wu Chen said, on the display screen of the spacecraft, a countdown has appeared. It is good, Rocket Raccoon agreed, and then walked towards the back of the spaceship with Ant-Man and Groot. They were going to drive a small spaceship to the interior of the planet. Definitely, Wu Chen also gave them some help, allowing them to avoid Egg's outer firepower and directly enter the interior of the planet. As a result, the original father-son game turned into a siege. Star-Lord, Yondu, Rocket, Groot, Ant-Man, these 5 people together against Egg, against the entire planet. The war is very stalemate. Although the purpose of Rocket Raccoon and others is to bring Star-Lord and Yondu back, as they join the battle circle, various situations immediately plunge them into it. It's not so easy to get out of it all at once. In the spaceship, Wu Chen was still watching, quietly watching. But Scarlet Witch on the side couldn't hold back a little. She watched those few people get into a hard fight, and she was actually uneasy. Don't worry, the big clock has been staring at them, and once the situation is critical, I will directly use the wormhole to bring them back. Wu Chen's voice suddenly sounded. When Scarlet Witch heard what he said, he was stunned for a moment, then laughed. I knew you wouldn't watch them die, Scarlet Witch said, wrapping his arms directly around Wu Chen's neck, and kissing Wu Chen's face in one bite. Huh, Wu Chen smiled. Although I'm not a bad person, but I'm not a ruthless person, they have never offended me, and they are people I know, I can save them with a single thought, why let them die in vain? Wu Chen said. He doesn't like to meddle in his own business on weekdays, but if he doesn't care about the things that happen around him, it's a bit unreasonable. I found out that you are actually a good person, but you just pretend to be ignorant of everything. Scarlet Witch said. Are you sending me a good card? Wu Chen asked back. No, I'm telling the truth. Scarlet Witch affirms. Well, you're telling the truth. Wu Chen said casually. It's actually quite simple for me to be a human being, as long as they don't provoke me, hinder or threaten me, I won't be enemies with them, and for those who are willing to befriend me sincerely, some of their requests are in the I will help them as much as I can. Wu Chen said, this is the first time he has clearly stated his principles of life. In fact, this is what most people in the world think. The heart of preventing others is indispensable, and the heart of harming others is not necessary. When people are convenient to me, I am convenient to others. If a person respects me 3 feet, I will pay him back 10 feet. Vice versa. The display shows that the situation in the planet is not optimistic. Although Rocket Raccoon and others have also joined the battle, there is a big difference between their strength and Egg after all. With the passage of time, Star-Lord and others have gradually fallen into the disadvantage, and the Tree Groot and Yondu were directly blocked by the rock manipulated by Egg, unable to move. They're about to hold on, can't hold on anymore. Scarlet Witch said, wait a minute, Knockwill still has the divine power inherited from Egg in his body. If he can exert it, although he still can't defeat Egg, it is still possible to let other people escape. Wu Chen said, you said before you came that they would fight together, you didn't mean to let them go through this battle, did you? Scarlet Witch suddenly remembered what Wu Chen had said to her earlier. That's it, Wu Chen replied. Why? Scarlet Witch wondered. The days are too long, I'm bored, find some drama to watch. Wu Chen's answer left Scarlet Witch speechless. You are absolutely too idle. Scarlet Witch said with emotion. It's too busy. Wu Chen did not deny it, and gave the correct answer directly. He's just too busy. At the big clock, he suggested that he slow down his steps, not to increase his strength and master more technology too deliberately, but to slowly digest the abilities he has obtained. Therefore, in the recent period of time, Wu Chen is actually very leisurely. Since you are so busy, do you want to go back and have a baby with me? In Scarlet Witch's mind, such a sentence suddenly popped up. But in the end, she didn't say it, and Wu Chen didn't pay special attention. His attention at the moment was mainly on Xing-Lord and others. He saw the current situation of those few people, and also saw that Star-Lord was trying to control Egg's power according to Yondu's prompt. Although, this kind of control could not allow Star-Lord to suppress Egg, but it made Egg have to devote more energy to deal with Star-Lord. Taking advantage of this gap, Yondu, Rocket and others were able to get rid of Egg's shackles. Hurry up, time is running out. If you stay here, Wu Chen will kill you and me together. Yondu shouted loudly, and the Rockets and others all understood at this moment that time was running out. None of you want to leave. At the moment, Egg is almost crazy. He realizes that Wu Chen outside may have the means to destroy his body, and he wants to pull these people as a shield for himself. Even if the time comes, Wu Chen really won't show mercy, so he will let these people be buried with him. Countless tentacles emerged from the ground, and all the surrounding weapons were also aimed at Rocket Raccoon and others at this moment, and Egg wanted to unleash all the firepower to keep these people in front of him. However, just as those tentacles were formed and those weapons were just aimed, they were disturbed. Star-Lord is doing his best to interfere with Egg's movements by relying on the power inherited from his own bloodline. Let's go. Rocket Raccoon understands that they have done their best, and there is no point in staying any longer, it can only be sacrificed in vain. Ant-Man and the Tree People soon came to Rocket Raccoon, and they were ready to open the flight device and leave. But Yondu looked at the Star-Lord who was fighting hard and fell into hesitation. Let's go, I'm already very happy that you can accompany me here, there's no need to be buried here with me. Star-Lord glanced at Yondu and said, Child, you were brought from the earth by me, if I can't take you back, let me stay here with you. After Yondu finished speaking, he actually took down the flight device behind him and threw it aside. He made up his mind to face everything that happened next with Star-Lord. Star-Lord, who was fighting with Egg, wanted to persuade him to say something, but when he turned around and saw the determined expression on Yondu's face, he knew that it was useless to say anything. With the last minute left, the sublight antimatter bomb begins to reload. The sound of the big clock suddenly appeared in the minds of Rocket Raccoon and others, and that was a special prompt given to them by Wu Chen. Rocket Raccoon looked back at Tree Groot. He couldn't kill his best friend because of Star-Lord and them. So, Rocket Raccoon took the Tree Groot and Ant-Man Scott. 3 people turned on the flight device and left here. They flew into outer space, towards the location of Wu Chen's eternal light. And when they just entered space, they saw what Wu Chen had said earlier, an antimatter bomb. It was at the lower left of the eternal light, a muzzle flashed red light, and then there was a bomb the size of a basketball file, pushed by a beam of strong light, quickly flew towards the planet of Egg's body. Go. Sub-light speed antimatter bomb, that is a weapon that the gluttonous army likes to use. They named this weapon, Ferocious Tide. Antimatter, which is the opposite of general matter, is composed of antiprotons, antineutrons, antielectrons and other antiparticles, and is a very special existence. Under normal conditions, as long as 1 gram of antimatter comes into contact with matter, the resulting explosion energy can reach 10 to the 14th joule, that is to say, it can directly evaporate 40,000 tons of water in an instant. As a weapon, the fierce tide, in addition to pure antimatter, also has sub-light speed propulsion. Antimatter propelled at sub-light speed can make it in the process of ending with matter. At the moment of its explosion, the entire antimatter bomb will be shot into matter. Let antimatter contact with matter annihilation. In the original book of Super God, Teoti only used a small antimatter bomb to instantly destroy a city, but now, the moment Wu Chen is about to launch is obviously much larger than the one used by the gluttonous army. Quill, Yondu. Rocket Raccoon turned his head, and he looked at the antimatter bomb, which was flying towards Egg at a very fast speed. In the next instant, the antimatter bomb disappeared, but then, a burst of bright light was generated on the surface of planet Egg. The Big Bang started, and a real reaction began between Egg's body and the antimatter bomb. The powerful energy shock would completely smash the planet formed by Egg's body. The rocket took the Tree Groot and Ant-Man Scott back to the edge of Wu Chen's spaceship, because only after entering here can the spaceship's own light energy barrier be used to resist the shockwave generated when the planet exploded. They, in this space, witnessed with their own eyes the explosion of that planet, together with Star-Lord and Yongdu, turned into dust in this universe. Chapter 71. Is this super god technology? This power is too terrifying. Scott looked at all this, and his heart was extremely shocked. Destroying a planet has often happened in the universe before, but many times they used a large number of high-explosive missiles to blow up the surface of the planet, so that only one bomb can annihilate the entire planet. Exactly, I have never heard of it in the past, let alone seen it with my own eyes like today. Rocket Raccoon walks in space after all, and he knows more about these things than Scott does. If you have anything to say, come in and talk about it. The equipment I have provided for you cannot support your stay in space for a long time. Wu Chen's voice came, and the 3 people who stayed outside the spaceship were also transferred to the spaceship. After entering the spaceship, the 3 people immediately called out in surprise, because they saw Shinglord and Yongdu who they thought were dead. How could you? Rocket just wanted to ask Star-Lord and Yongdu why they were alive, but as soon as he turned around and saw Wu Chen, he immediately understood. Wu Chen has the ability to instantly teleport people to other dimensions, so bringing Star-Lord and Yongdu out of that planet is just a thought. Really, obviously they won't let them die, but they have to say it so heartlessly. Rocket Raccoon complained, but Wu Chen ignored it. Ego's planet has been destroyed, but his power does not seem to have completely disappeared. Wu Chen looked ahead. Where the explosion happened, he saw the wreckage of the planet. How is this possible? The bomb was so powerful that the entire planet was blown up. How could he still be alive? Star-Lord asked in disbelief. An antimatter bomb is enough to destroy this planet. The sound of the big clock came. However, Egg seems to be prepared in advance. He concentrates all his strength on its core, and gathers all the hardest metals and rocks in the entire planet around the core, forming an incomparably strong protective shield. Avoided self-destruction in the explosion. The big clock said, and on the display, a huge rock located in the core area of the explosion appeared in everyone's field of vision. Originally a planet, now there is only a sphere with a radius of 100 meters. Although it is much smaller, its firmness is unimaginable. If the core is not destroyed, Egg's energy will not be completely dissipated, and it will not take long for it to absorb a large amount of matter in the universe to form a new planet and return to its peak state. Star-Lord has felt the power of that planet, so he knows the function and meaning of that core existence. Want to hang on like this? It's childish. Wu Chen laughed. He could even destroy an entire planet, how could he care about a mere sphere? Using a god-killing weapon, you can directly break through the outer steel defense. Said the big clock. Well, then, wait. Wu Chen just wanted to say that he was going to use the god-killing axe, but he immediately thought of another idea. Star-Lord, are you able to harness a part of Egg's power now? Wu Chen turned his head to look at Star-Lord. An idea gradually became clear in his mind. Well, I just tried it while fighting Egg, and I can indeed control the power of that planet to a certain extent. Star-Lord replied. Very well, then, if I block this core in a special way and provide it to you as an energy source, you should be able to use the power of that core even if you are not on the planet. Quote, quote. Wu Chen said. Are you trying to think of Egg as Quill's power bank? Rocket Raccoon listened and understood Wu Chen's intentions. This idea is too crazy. It's a celestial race. You actually want to make him a power bank for me? Star-Lord was also shocked. Wu Chen's thoughts are terrifying. Without the existence of ego, you are just an ordinary person, but if there is one here, you are half a god race, although the strength will never reach the level of ego, but in this universe it is still possible to occupy a place. Wu Chen said, and then he directly started to let the big clock calculate what method could be used to make Egg's core into a power bank. When the big clock was calculating, the people outside were still in shock, and it was difficult to calm down for a while. Compress its file size with a space cage, then store it in a specific dark plane space, and link its terminal to Quill's body, and you should be able to realize your vision. Big Clock has calculated a complete plan. You don't really plan to make Egg a power bank, do you? Scarlet Witch at the moment couldn't help but speak. Really, this idea of Wu Chen is too crazy. Since it has been said, it is naturally true. Wu Chen said. It's just that this power bank is exclusive to you, Star-Lord. Whether you want it or not is up to you. Wu Chen looked at Star-Lord, and the only one who relied on Egg to gain power can only be Star-Lord, who inherited the factors of the Heavenly God clan. Therefore, whether it depends entirely on Star-Lord. Star-Lord hesitated. His first thought was actually not wanting it. But then, he realized that if he mastered this power, it might be of great benefit to himself. At least, he can become a strong man in the future. Why are you helping me? Star-Lord raised his head and asked. There's no reason, I just thought of it suddenly, and it's funny. Wu Chen said casually. He did it without any special purpose. To imprison others for freedom, this kind of thing can easily make people feel guilty for years, but for a person like Egg who wrecked countless living beings and poisoned his own descendants, this kind of punishment should not be too much, right? Wu Chen said. Okay, then I will inherit this power according to what you said. Star-Lord agreed. What he cared about at first was the kind of guilt Wu Chen said. But Wu Chen also woke him up. For a person like Egg, who is not as good as a beast, even if he was imprisoned for thousands of years, it would not be too much. If that's the case, then I'll start. After Wu Chen finished speaking, his eyes were suddenly covered with a layer of albiginia. That is, he is mobilizing huge dark energy. He is building a powerful space cage that captures Egg, compresses it, and finally seals it up. Egg turned into a huge amount of sphere, thinking that he could survive. But before he could get out, he was directly blocked by a huge amount of space cage, and then the substance on his body began to be compressed, and finally became a sphere with a file size of only 2 or 3 meters, and was directly thrown into a dark space. Inside. Welcome to the dark plane, Egg. Wu Chen appeared in the dark plane space. He turned into a huge black shadow, and looked directly at the body of Egg that had shrunk. You don't have to try to struggle. In this space, you can't exert any power by yourself. You will be imprisoned here forever, and as a charging treasure, provide energy for the outside world Quill. Wu Chen finished speaking, and after a while, he continued. You have something to say. Then I'll give you a chance to speak. Wu Chen said, stretched his right hand forward, tapped his index finger on the sphere, and a projection of Egg appeared on the sphere. The projection's face was full of anger. Wu Chen, although I had a holiday with you, you have already destroyed my planet. Why are you unwilling to let go of my little body core? Egg asked. The kindness to the enemy is the cruelty to oneself, don't you understand this truth? Wu Chen asked back. If that's the case, why didn't you just kill me? Egg continued to question. Tiger poison doesn't eat offspring, but you deliberately give birth to children everywhere in the entire universe, and then keep devouring your own offspring. It's too cheap for a person like you to die. Wu Chen said. So, do you want to be a so-called justice judge? Egg sneered. He never believed that there would be such a so-called righteous person in the world. No, I never thought that I would be a righteous person, nor would I try to judge other people's crimes. You just bumped into my hand yourself. Wu Chen said that there was no intersection between him and Egg, and Wu Chen didn't plan to go to him. But on the same day, it was Egg who first blocked Wu Chen's pursuit of Doctor Strange in the parallel universe, and the two of them forged a relationship. Definitely, Wu Chen won't let Egg's conspiracy to rule the entire universe succeed. After all, if Egg dominates the entire universe, wouldn't Wu Chen also be controlled by him? One more thing, after making you into a charging treasure, Star-Lord can have the power of the gods, although he is not my direct subordinate now, but I avenged him for killing his mother and gave him this divine power. He will surely appreciate my kindness in the future, that is to say, he will be a great help to me, and this is a little interest that I earn by the way in my pastime. Wu Chen said, and as his voice fell, Egg's projection disappeared. In the entire dark plane space, there is no other movement, only the sphere that Egg has turned into will always flash a faint white light, and then be pulled to a special link interface. What that chain interface is connected to is the Star-Lord in the real space. Wu Chen returned to the real space, and he looked at the Star-Lord who has been constantly feeling the power of docking with Egg at the moment. Can you still adapt to this feeling of mastering divine power? Wu Chen asked. Adapt, definitely adapt, Star-Lord said. His face showed a burst of excitement that could not be concealed. Ha ha ha, I am also a person with divine power now. You are indeed a person with divine power, but your divine power is nothing in the universe, so it's better to keep a low profile. Wu Chen said. In fact, the power of Star-Lord is really nothing. Egg's original strength can be ranked first in the Marvel movie universe, but as the Star-Lord who inherited part of Egg's divine power, his strength will be much weaker. To really compare, the Star-Lord of at the moment may be similar to a person of Thor's level. After all, Thor is also a god. Although there are differences between Asgard and the gods, Thor is a direct descendant of Odin, and he inherits the most powerful gods. Sir, he is not Thor's opponent. I see, you are here. Star-Lord said, although he claims to have divine power, he can be much more confident than before. But Wu Chen is something he will never provoke. After all, even in his prime, he couldn't handle Wu Chen. Quote. In the middle of Wu Chen's words, his face suddenly became solemn. He raised his head and looked upward. Although there was only one deck there, what Wu Chen saw was somewhere behind the deck and behind the starry sky. There was a group of people in blue robes with big bald heads, and they were watching Wu Chen. Watcher. Wu Chen was speaking, and his words were conveyed to those monitors by teleportation. We've been watching you for a long time, Wu Chen. One of the monitors suddenly said. I knew that sooner or later you guys would notice my presence. Wu Chen's tone revealed displeasure. But haven't you never interfered with everything that happens in the universe? Why did you come to me specifically today? Wu Chen asked. The reason why he suddenly raised his head just now was because he sensed the call of the monitors. Even though Wu Chen knew when he first crossed over that there were such a group of people in this universe, he never thought that this group of people would intersect with him. After all, this group of people will still stand idly by even in the face of such a big event that Thanos wants to destroy the entire universe. We found that you possess advanced technology that surpasses all civilizations in this universe, and the knowledge you possess may already be on par with us. You have technology that transcends common sense, and if you continue to stay among ordinary people, it is very likely that you will lead those civilizations to the end. I hope you can join the ranks of the observers. You should be with us, as a bystander, watching the entire universe change. The observers say one sentence each, but they all mean the same thing. The reason why they contacted Wu Chen today is to hope that Wu Chen can leave the world of ordinary people and join the ranks of their observers. I reject, Wu Chen said. He doesn't want to be like these observers. I'm different from you. I still have my pursuits and goals. You can always stand on the sidelines, but I have to be in it, because only in the bureau can I grasp the changes of the situation. After Wu Chen finished speaking, he directly withdrew his consciousness and no longer communicated with those monitors. And the monitors did not continue to contact Wu Chen. Wu Chen's thoughts returned to the spaceship of the Eternal Light, but Scarlet Witch and the others all looked at him with bewildered expressions. Just now, Wu Chen was still talking to Star-Lord, but suddenly his thoughts shifted to the observer. Scarlet Witch didn't know what was going on, and they didn't know whether to disturb Wu Chen, so they could only keep watching. At the moment, seeing that Wu Chen's thoughts seemed to have returned to this side, everyone felt relieved. Just now, what happened to you? Scarlet Witch asked. She was actually a little worried about Wu Chen. There was a special group of guys who took me to discuss things. Wu Chen replied. A special guy? Scarlet Witch wondered. Cosmic observers, a group of people with super advanced technology that far exceeds all civilizations in the universe today. They think they have surpassed the limit of human beings, so they no longer interfere in the universe originally, but in a spectator attitude, have been silently watching events in the universe. Wu Chen replied, and after hearing what he said, everyone present was stunned. The present universe has become more and more surprising to them. First there were infinite gems, then a parallel universe, and then a celestial race, and now it's better, there is actually a group of observers who have been watching them in the universe. Did they come to you to do something to you? Scarlet Witch asked. They just wanted to invite me in, the others didn't say anything. Wu Chen said, okay, this time it's agreed that I'm going to take you out of the universe to take a look around. Since Igo has been eliminated here, why don't we drop by and go to other planets in the universe? Wu Chen is changing the subject, and he doesn't want Scarlet Witch to worry too much about the issue of observers. Scarlet Witch saw Wu Chen's thoughts, so he didn't ask any more questions. Others such as Star-Lord, at the moment chose silence. So, in the next period of time, the ship was very quiet. Wu Chen returned to his lounge on the spaceship, and the moment he was lying on the bed, his thoughts had already come to the dark matter plane. Here, the big clock is displayed. Monitors do exist, and in the comics setting, they can read any data information in the universe at will. Will the information about the supernatural technology that you include will also be read by them? Wu Chen asked. This can be said to be Wu Chen's greatest worry. Supernatural technology, which is the root of Wu Chen, is what Wu Chen cares about the most. If this supernatural technology has been obtained by the observer, then the threat to Wu Chen from the observer is too great. All the data of the big clock is specially encrypted, and no one else can read it unless it is the controller of the big clock, or the controller grants permission. The big clock replied, those watchers can read all the technical information and data in the Marvel movie universe, but with what I know about the Marvel movie universe, their technology tree is not the same as the supernatural technology, so they have to break through my database to read to my data information. It is not so easy to do. The big clock has great confidence in his ability. The observer's setting is to have hundreds of millions of years of technology that surpasses all civilizations in the existing Marvel universe, and the development of supernatural technology since records have only gone through 100,000 years. The gap between, but it's huge. Wu Chen said. According to the butterfly effect, in the long river of history, a simple choice and decision can completely change the direction of a universe. Perhaps the gods, civilizations and technologies of the Marvel universe have existed for much longer than the technological civilization of the super god universe. But in terms of the development of the tech tree, the two sides are not the same. When the big clock spoke, two identical lines were already displayed in front of Wu Chen. Wu Chen knew that it was referring to the timeline and technology line of the two universes. The development of the two universes on passenger aircraft may have been the same at first, from primitive technology to thermonuclear technology, and finally into the era of aerospace-grade technology. But in the exploration to a higher level of technology, the supernatural universe gave birth to celestial computers, and as of now, in my exploration and observation of the Marvel movie universe, there has not been any scientific and technological civilization that has been developed on this. That is to say, after entering the next stage of aerospace-grade technology, the super god universe has carried out the reform of super god technology. The big clock has become the unique technology of the super god universe, and the upgrade technology of the god body also has unique advantages. The big clock said that his analysis was based on the known data, and for the observer, the data source of the big clock was the memory of Wu Chen before the crossing. In Wu Chen's memory, cosmic observers have the inherent ability to achieve almost any need, including augmentation of personal attributes, time and space manipulation, molecular manipulation, energy projection, and vast psychic powers. And the ability of these universe observers is also possessed by the super warriors of the super god universe. Although in terms of time, Super God technology currently does not have the flexibility to shuttle at will, but in terms of space, Super God technology has more powerful manipulation of the universe. In terms of personal attributes, the current Wu Chen may not appear to be superior to the observer, but once he enters the fourth generation divine body or the sacred body, Wu Chen can be completely fearless. Even if he suffers a heavy attack, he can instantly recover, while the observer was killed more than once in the comics. As for the other three items, there is currently no comparable data, but as far as the model is concerned, the supernatural technology that the observer can do it. Perhaps, this is also the reason why observers will take a fancy to Wu Chen and hope that he will also join the ranks of observers. The data of the big clock will not be leaked. The route taken by Supersion technology is not the same as that taken by the original Marvel Universe, and it belongs to the strong ones, so I can only experience it myself and then make a judgment. Your intention, Wang Zhaozhao, is like this, right? Wu Chen asked. Yes, the big clock replied. You asked me to slow down the research and upgrade of Super God technology first, but now it seems that my strength is not enough to be foolproof. Wu Chen said with emotion. Even if the universe changes, your own path should not be changed at will. At this stage, it is most useful to be proficient in and master all the super genes you have mastered. The big clock still stands, his original suggestion. I understand this, but your investigation and analysis of the Marvel movie universe must speed up the process, as well as the analysis of Mind Gem. Wu Chen said. Understood. I will immediately start looking for more suitable fixed stars, increase energy input, and speed up the solution process. The big clock answered, and at the same time, the operation rate of the big clock began to increase. After talking with the big clock, Wu Chen closed his eyes and rested. In less than half a day, the spacecraft came to Xandar Star. As the planet that Wu Chen has visited the most times in his space voyage, the people here are also very familiar to Wu Chen. When Nova Supreme heard that it was Wu Chen, he arranged a reception of the highest standard immediately. It's just that Wu Chen came out of the universe this time on a trip. He came to Xandar Star simply to make a short stay here, so that Scarlet Witch can get to know the capital of the Interstellar Empire with a high reputation in the universe. It's a pity that in the last round of the battle between Wu Chen and Thanos Legion, the entire Xandar Star suffered huge amounts of damage. Although it has been repaired at a very fast speed, it still does not seem to be as prosperous as before. Xandar Star, which was once brilliant, looks a bit run down now. Star-Lord did not personally experience the battle of the day, and it seemed a little unbelievable when faced with the sight of it at the moment. This has been almost repaired. When the war just ended that day, the entire Xandar Star was almost full of broken walls. Rocket Raccoon said, under the nest, there is no complete egg, and there is no pure land under the war. Under the war that day, the entire Xandar Star was affected. Wu Chen said, in fact, if it wasn't for the people from Xandar at that time to ask Wu Chen to show mercy to him, and Wu Chen used a stick in the state of the sky and the earth, all the buildings on the surface of Xandar would have to be being razed to the ground. Those Xandar people will also suffer countless casualties. I really want to see what this planet was like in its heyday. Scarlet Witch sighed, but in fact, even the Xandar Star in this dilapidated state is not bad in her eyes. Because, she saw the people here, the kind of easygoing and solidarity between them, which rarely appeared on Earth. Moreover, the technology of this planet is obviously more advanced than that on Earth, excluding Wu Chen's supernatural technology and some other black technologies, the spaceships flying everywhere, and the machinery that assists them in rebuilding the city are all on Earth. None of the above. If you like, you are welcome to come back later. Nova Supreme said that she has seen that the relationship between Scarlet Witch and Wu Chen is unusual, and Wu Chen, to the people of Xandar, is a god, a respected and awe-inspiring existence. What they respect is Wu Chen's power, and what they fear is also Wu Chen's power, because they don't know whether this person whom they worship as a god is really willing to protect their planet. But if there is an intermediary, or in other words, if there is a person around Wu Chen who can be attracted by them, can speak good words for them, and make Wu Chen have more favorable impression of Xandar Star, then for them, it is also more at ease. If I have the chance, I will come again. Scarlet Witch didn't refuse, she really wanted to come again. We have arranged accommodation for you, the environmental restoration there has been basically completed, and the living measures have been perfected, which will definitely ensure that you will live comfortably in the next period of time. Nova Supreme smiled and led them towards a high-end urban area on Xandar Star. Wu Chen did not refuse their warm hospitality. As a result, the group of them finally settled in this urban area and began to enjoy the hospitality of Xandar Star and experience life on this alien planet. At the same time, when Wu Chen and others were traveling in Xandar, the Earth was still turbulent. Vision and Quicksilver have been on the go for a long time. He has traveled between many countries and special organizations, trying to avoid their hostile thoughts to Wu Chen and the Supernatural Institute as much as possible. And the reason why they did this was not because they were afraid that they would threaten the Supernatural Research Institute, but because they were afraid that their hostility with Wu Chen would eventually lead to death. The major powers in the world are still full of dread about the Supernatural Research Institute, and they even always want to deal with the Supernatural Research Institute and Wu Chen. It is difficult for the two of us alone, no matter how hard we work, restrain them. Quicksilver sighs, and at the moment, sitting across from him in vision, is Wakanda's current king, T'Challa, and his successor, T'Challa. The Wakanda tree has been isolated from the world for hundreds of years, and it does not interfere or participate in the disputes of the outside world. Therefore, in this matter, we can do nothing. T'Chaka said. The secret of Wakanda's existence has already been known to the outside world. Is it really appropriate to be isolated from the world in this state? Vision asked. However, the current situation on Earth, even if we Wakanda actively participate in it, I'm afraid it won't affect much, right? T'Challa said. He advocates opening Wakanda, but he is not optimistic about the current situation of the Earth. Although there are not many people in the Super God Research Institute, it has become an existence that all forces on the whole Earth are afraid of. The Super God Research Institute's combat effectiveness is too strong, and Wu Chen's style will never compromise to outsiders. In this state, conflict between the two sides is probably unavoidable no matter what. T'Challa made his point. This conflict within the Earth is indeed inevitable, but what form this conflict will take is something we may change. Vision said. What do you mean? T'Chaka looked at Vision suspiciously. Now, most of the forces on Earth are afraid of the technology and power mastered by Wu Chen and the Super God Research Institute, but they also have considerable confidence in the military power they control, so they dare to study the Super God. Provocation. We all know that once Wu Chen is about to take action, what these forces will bear will be a painful blow. Maybe Wu Chen will kill all of them if he is not careful, and the whole Earth may also be affected and it will end. But if we come forward and conflict with them in the name of the Supernatural Research Institute, then directly defeat all the people of these forces. Although this is also likely to cause casualties, compared to Wu Chen's shot, such casualties are definitely much smaller, and after they are defeated, they will know more clearly that the combat power of the Supernatural Institute is how powerful. No one will dare to have the idea of being hostile to the Super God Research Institute after that. Vision has revealed his plan, the purpose of his visit to King Wakanda and the prince this time. So, do you want us, Wakanda, to take an active part in the war with you? T'Chaka's face was solemn. In the past, Wakanda was reluctant to take the initiative to contact the outside world. Now Vision and the others have come, not only to open up to the outside world, but also to actively participate in the war with the outside world. Only by defeating them with strong means can they finally give up their spying on the Supernatural Research Institute. This war is so that there will be no more tragic wars. Vision said that this idea was originally proposed by him. Fight is not to fight. How can you have such a concept? T'Challa's statement about Vision was also difficult to understand for a while. It's not difficult to understand the reasoning that one punch is open and 100 punches are avoided. What's more, the purpose of our punch is to protect them, not to harm them. Vision said, and to say how his thoughts were affected, it is naturally Wu Chen's. When Wu Chen replaced the mind gem on his forehead for Vision, he also implanted some of Wu Chen's thoughts in his brain. These thoughts were combined with Vision's original thoughts, the same Vision. The existence forms of life are all complex. Although Vision is an artificial life, it is now a real life, and an intelligent life. The changes that have occurred due to the convergence of various influences, no one knows whether he is good or bad, but at least, he is now trying to protect the world according to his own ideas. This is not a good hesitation. If you are unwilling to help, we may not be able to defeat the coalition forces of various countries simply with the strength of the two of us. At that time, they will definitely take action against the Supernatural Research Institute, and once that step is reached, then, the consequences will be quite serious. Quicksilver said. And after hearing his words, T'Challa, at the moment fell into silence. Attacking the Chaoshan Institute means declaring war on Wu Chen, and they are very clear about Wu Chen's strength. If Wu Chen is really annoyed, all those who declare war on it will inevitably suffer a devastating blow. By then, I am afraid it will really be the end of the Earth. They are right, this time to make the Earth safe, we must take the initiative to create such a war. The portal opened, and Doctor Strange, not the one from the parallel universe, appeared in front of everyone. Strange, even you Kamar Taj have been alarmed by this incident. Vision turned his head and looked at Doctor Strange. He and the forces behind him were the most mysterious and the most powerful existence on Earth. I am here this time only to represent my personal position, and Kamar Taj will not intervene in the disputes within human beings. Doctor Strange said that he is not yet the Sorcerer Supreme, because the Ancient One is still. The current state of Ancient One is still the same as in the past, staying in Kamar Taj, watching over the entire real world, preventing the invasion of dark creatures such as Dormammu. As for Doctor Strange, although he is also one of Kamar Taj's magician, he chose to return to reality, and he cannot sit idly by for some big events happening here. Well, even if it's just you, your participation will be of great benefit to our next plan. Vision said he welcomes the addition of Doctor Strange. Now, it's up to your father and son to decide. Vision looked back at T'Challa, the father and son at the moment hesitation. Kamar Taj was not directly involved in the war, so neither should Wakanda. T'Chaka finally made his choice. Wakanda as a country, if he joins the war, will likely be seen as an invasion of other countries, which will lead to a world war, the impact of which is difficult to estimate. However, Black Panther is just the Asgardian of Wakanda, and he was originally just a man and should have his own mind. T'Challa looked at T'Challa, who had decided to let T'Challa join Vision's team as Black Panther. Everyone present already understood what T'Chaka meant, and they all understood that as a king, it was normal for T'Chaka to have this idea. In fact, they didn't know that T'Chaka actually recognized the Superhero Registration Act in his heart, because in the movie, the first national leader to approve the Superhero Registration Act was T'Chaka, who was the king of Wakanda at that time. However, the appearance of Wu Chen has changed the pattern of the whole world. Wakanda, who has had many interactions with Wu Chen, is even more aware of the horror of Wu Chen. Therefore, even if T'Chaka supports the Superhero Registration Bill, he cannot ignore this idea from Vision. Because, it is best for the Earth to prevent Wu Chen from directly participating in the internal disputes of the Earth. Father, I already understand what you mean, and I will do my best to help them prevent this disaster from happening. T'Challa came to T'Challa and gave T'Challa a big gift with Wakanda's etiquette. Well, I believe, you can do it. T'Chaka nodded. He had always trusted his only son. After that, T'Challa said goodbye to T'Challa, and he and Vision and others left Wakanda. With the addition of Black Panther T'Challa, Vision and Quicksilver have one more helper. Now, there are 4 people in their team, and all 4 are superhero with extremely strong fighting ability. Have you contacted anyone other than the 4 of us here? On the plane leaving Wakanda, T'Challa asked Vision. I tried to contact Mr. Stark and Mr. Rogers, but they both rejected me. Vision said, what he wanted most at first was Stark's approval. After all, Stark was the most critical of the few who forged Vision. But Stark is a firm supporter of the Superhero Registration Bill, so Vision's request, Stark refused without hesitation. Rogers was originally against the Superhero Registration Bill, but when he heard that Vision wanted to use war to stop the actions of the various alliances against the Superhero Institute, he chose to stand on the same side as Stark, and they did not want war to happen. Compared with preventing the monitoring of the Super Sacred Institute by the coalition forces of various countries, they would prefer to see Wu Chen bow to the countries of the world. But Vision is very clear that it is absolutely impossible for Wu Chen to sacrifice himself for the bigger picture like their so-called superhero. So, what are you going to do next? T'Challa asked. Next, we storm the coalition forces of various countries. To forcibly attack the coalition forces of various countries. Isn't this a bit too crazy? Scarlet Witch said. She at the moment is still on Xandar, but the decision of Quicksilver and Vision can still be conveyed through the big clock. During this period of time, we have been working hard to prevent the war from happening, but no matter how hard we try, those self-righteous powers simply don't take it for granted. Quicksilver said, "We have no choice but to take coercive measures." Quicksilver continued, "With the two of you alone, can you be the opponent of those coalition forces?" Scarlet Witch asked. "We've reached out to Black Panther T'Challa, Doctor Strange has volunteered and we're 4 now." Quicksilver said, "Even if there are 4 of you, but the other side is a coalition of various countries, and the number of people, 6, 7, 7, is in the thousands." Scarlet Witch is still worried that she and Quicksilver are twin brothers and sisters, and they have grown up through hardships together for many years. What we want is to defeat them, and we just need to make them realize how strong the power of our supernatural institute is, that's enough. Quicksilver said that their goal was never to kill many people, but to make them fear the supernatural institute, especially Wu Chen. Once there is a fight, casualties are inevitable, and those in the military can't use common sense to judge. Sometimes they will carry out crazy counterattacks and revenge regardless of the cost, regardless of the casualties. Scarlet Witch has seen such soldiers, and Hydra is definitely the most representative presence in this regard. "Don't worry, we've got some sense." After Quicksilver finished speaking, he directly hung up the communication. They've reached their destination. It's time to tell Scarlet Witch, he's already said it, and then they just need to concentrate on doing what they want to do. Xandar Star, at the door of Scarlet Witch's room, Wu Chen is walking in. As the direct master of the big clock, he naturally knew all the conversations between Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. "Wu Chen, can you help me open the wormhole? I want to go back to Earth." Scarlet Witch said, "I know what you want to do, but this is the decision of the two of them. You have no reason and should not stop them. As for their safety, I will let the big clock take care of them. When the crisis comes, the big clock will send them directly. Go back to the Institute." Wu Chen said. "Then, do you think their plan can really succeed?" Scarlet Witch asked. "If we just analyze their ideas, this approach is feasible, but if they really want to show my strength to make the opponent fear, then there is actually a simpler and more direct way." Wu Chen said. "What easier way?" Scarlet Witch wondered. "Open a wormhole and directly kill the guys in charge of the organization with one shot." Wu Chen said casually, and his words made Scarlet Witch froze in place. "Yes, open a wormhole and directly kill the people who organize the coalition forces of various countries to deal with Wu Chen and the Supernatural Research Institute, so no one can do what the Supernatural Research Institute can do. Anyway, after this war, casualties will be caused. Rather than letting those innocent soldiers die, it is better to let the culprits go to hell. Then I'll contact Quicksilver and Vision and ask them to cancel the plan." After Scarlet Witch finished speaking, the index finger and middle finger of the right hand were placed where the temple was, which was trying to communicate with Quicksilver. But at the moment, Wu Chen waved his hand to interrupt it. "Wait, the current situation of the Earth has changed, we can take a look first." As Wu Chen said, he stretched out his finger and pointed forward, and a virtual projection appeared in front of the two of them. It was in the woods not far from the so-called coalition base of various countries on Earth. Quicksilver and Vision, who were planning to start an attack on the coalition base from here, suddenly encountered people who came to stop them. Those were the people of Avengers. Stark and Rogers lead the team, War Machine, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Spider-Man, Winter Soldier, Falcon, their number is twice that of Quicksilver. In the movie, the number of people in the most intense battle of the Civil War is similar to now, and now it is just that Scarlet Witch has been replaced by Quicksilver, Ant-Man has been replaced by Doctor Strange. However, the opposing sides have undergone great changes. Rogers and Stark, who were supposed to be hostile to each other, still chose to join forces at the moment. And their opponents became a quartet led by Vision and Quicksilver. "Vision, you were created by me, I didn't expect you to make such a decision, it broke Dad's heart." Stark said. He considered himself Vision's father. "Actually, I was created by Ultron, and you, Dr. Banner, and Thor just helped me with the final opening." Vision said. Vision would have been willing to recognize Stark as his creator if not for the fact that the two sides were on opposite sides, but now, their positions are different. "Then according to you, I am your grandfather, shouldn't my status be higher?" Stark said. In terms of human logic, it can be understood that way, but I'm not really human. Vision said. So, are you determined to carry out your plan? Are you really going to attack those ordinary human soldiers with a few of them? Stark said, the reason why their group came here today is to stop the 4 of them from attacking the coalition base. I have tried my best to persuade them, but not only did they not follow our advice, but they are still assembling the most elite special forces from all over the world to continue to attack the Supernatural Research Institute. I have no other choice. Did so. Vision said, this is not a last resort. As long as Wu Chen is willing to sign the superhero registration bill, or he closes the Superhero Institute and hides it in a new secret spot, there is no need for such a war. Rogers said his virginity made him believe in sacrificing the individual for the common good. But you have to know that Wu Chen would never do this. Vision said, why can everyone else do it, but he can't? Is it so difficult to make such a small sacrifice for the sake of world peace? Rogers couldn't understand what Vision was saying at the moment, and what he couldn't understand the most was Wu Chen. At the moment, Wu Chen, who saw this scene on Xandar Star, laughed disdainfully. Said, why do you? What Wu Chen at the moment said, those people on Earth couldn't hear, not even Scarlet Witch noticed. In the virtual projection, the situation at the moment is already very serious. What Rogers said was not endorsed by Vision and Quicksilver. Even Doctor Strange and T'Challa felt that what Rogers had said was inappropriate. Forcing a person to sacrifice himself for the safety of others is called moral kidnapping. An ordinary person would feel very uncomfortable when faced with such a thing, not to mention that the person involved this time is Wu Chen, a person who can wipe out the entire Earth at the click of a finger. It seems that none of us can convince anyone. Vision sighed, and while he didn't want a head-on confrontation with Stark and the others, this time, he had to stand his ground. We will never let you cross this forest and attack the ordinary people behind you. Rogers raised his shield in his hand, and the others also took out the weapons they were good at. Ordinary people, a group of heavily armed soldiers who are about to launch an attack on a lonely overseas island. Can such a person be considered an ordinary person? Vision said. The gem on his forehead, at the moment, was also constantly flashing. I can't tell you, but no matter what, you can't take the initiative to provoke this war. Stark's head has also been covered with steel, and the two sides have officially entered a state of full preparation for battle. Go ahead, Quicksilver said, and the first time after his words fell, he had already started to act. As a result, both sides entered a state of melee at the same time. There are only 4 people on Vision's side, and 8 on Stark's side. In terms of numbers, Vision's side should be at a disadvantage. But the battle had just begun, and the advantage was already in Vision's side. Although Vision lacks the mind gem, its combat power has not weakened in the slightest, and the knowledge in combat has become more abundant than in the past. Quicksilver's body was adjusted by Wu Chen, and he was wearing Wu Chen's special nano armor. On top of his original speed advantage, his defense, attack and balance were also greatly improved, that is to say, his strength much better than in the movie. Not to mention Doctor Strange, the best magician of Kamar Taj, who holds magical powers, with a dazzling variety of magical applications. Black Panther T'Challa is almost the same as in the movie, but he has enhanced his physical fitness through special herbs, and has the blessing of vibranium armor. His attack and defense are also quite good. In contrast, the lineup on Stark's side was much worse. Although the number is dominant, the only one who can fight Vision and the others one-on-one is Stark. The rest, even Rogers and Spider-Man, can't match the most common Black Panther of the Vision 4, let alone one-on-one with the other 3. Now, they are reluctantly delaying Vision and the others in a 2-to-1 manner. Stark blocks Vision together with War Machine. Rogers and Winter Soldier against Black Panther T'Challa. Hawkeye and Spider-Man are trying to hold off Quicksilver. Natasha Romanoff, along with Falcon, is dealing with Doctor Strange. Vision they have the upper hand, but they have no intention of killing these people. The voice of the genetic system resounded in Wu Chen's mind. After all, they are both superhero, and there is no deep hatred between them. It is impossible for them to kill them directly. Wu Chen said, one side is a group of 4 with the most advanced technology and the most mysterious power, and the other side is more of a group of ordinary people who maximize the advantages of human beings. The power gap between the two sides is already obvious. Stark and the others couldn't stop Vision for how long? Said the genetic system. Even if you can stop it, it's useless. Wu Chen said, and at the same time, there were new targets that appeared in the virtual projection screen. It was a group of special forces, scouts and advance teams dispatched from the barracks of the coalition army of various countries not far ahead. As Vision said, each of these soldiers is fully armed, and they are carefully selected from the troops of various countries, and each has a strong combat effectiveness. These soldiers are by no means superheroes' opponents in a fight, but they are numerous, and they only know how to execute orders, so there is absolutely no possibility of so-called mercy. In the original state of stalemate between the two sides, their appearance will inevitably change the direction of normal war. Are you planning to let Vision and the others succumb to it? Genetic Systems asked. That's definitely impossible. Wu Chen said, and in the Earth's Research Institute, Banner, who had been in a resting state, was directly awakened, and he was awakened in the form of Hulk. The space wormhole opened, and Hulk was sent directly to the battlefield. Hulk didn't know what was going on here, but his appearance immediately attracted the attention of the soldiers who were gathering around, and several soldiers attacked him directly. Now, Hulk won't watch anymore. For those who take the initiative to attack him, Hulk will definitely fight back without hesitation. As a result, the situation on the battlefield changed again. It was originally to assist the Avengers against the advance team of Vision and others. At this moment, all were blocked by Hulk alone, and even their formation was quickly disrupted. If you let Hulk join the battlefield, wouldn't the situation be more chaotic? Scarlet Witch, who had been watching, couldn't help but speak at the moment. Since the fight has already started, the situation is going to be chaotic. Now that Hulk is on the scene, wouldn't it be possible to help Pilcher and the others? Wu Chen said, but in his heart, he simply wanted Hulk to come to the scene and create a little trouble for the so-called coalition forces and the Avengers. The big clock, granting Vision and Quicksilver permission to summon the droids. Wu Chen said this not in his heart, but in front of Scarlet Witch. Will the superhero robot also participate in the war? Scarlet Witch began to worry about those soldiers, because she knew very well how powerful the super god robots were. Once they joined the battle, the coalition would not only be defeated, but also the casualties would be much more than Quicksilver expected. I just gave Vision permission, it's their own decision whether they want the help of the superhero robot or not. Wu Chen said, while straight up Erlang's legs, he took a glass of red wine through the wormhole and watched quietly this lively scene on Earth. When Banner joined the battlefield, it directly caused the entire war situation to tilt and further chaos. At this moment, all the soldiers in the coalition base have already taken action, and even other bases are sending fighter jets to the battlefield. But Hulk is not something that can be dealt with just by having a lot of people. No matter how many soldiers gather, it is difficult to form an effective attack and defense in front of Hulk. As long as the Hulk are around, the casualties will continue to increase, and we will be unable to resist their attack from behind. Rogers said, Rogers, come and stop Vision, I'll deal with Hulk. Stark quickly retreated, and Rogers was also on top of Stark's position at the first time, delaying Vision as much as possible. Stark, who pulled away, directly summoned Veronica, a weapon system he and Banner developed together specifically for Hulk. Veronica's weapon system fell from the sky, the anti-Hulk armor was directly loaded, and the huge mechanical body confronted Hulk head-on. Scrap copper and iron, Hulk roared, then charged towards Stark. But the real situation is that the anti-Hulk armor has a certain degree of restraint on Hulk, and it may not be able to really defeat Hulk, but it can be done to stop Hulk. As a result, the situation on the battlefield changed again. Hulk originally disrupted the key points of the entire battlefield by himself, but now, Hulk has been delayed, and the elites of the coalition can join the core battle. Although without Stark's restraint on Vision, Vision could have gained an advantage, but after one Stark is missing, the four of them have to face. There is also a fully armed and highly capable Special Operations Force, and this Special Forces the number of combat troops has reached thousands, and they can constantly invest more manpower and adjust various combat strategies. Vision, think of a way, this situation is not the same as what we predicted earlier. Quote. Quicksilver came to Vision and said, their original plan was for 4 people to storm the coalition camp. Although they were one enemy with 100, but with their ability to deal with a simple group of ordinary people, they could easily tear one open in their defense circle, from the mouth. But now, there's more Rogers like a bunch of them superhero. The combat power of these superheroes is not comparable to the four of them, but the reason why they can be called superheroes originally has its own uniqueness and certain strength. Just like Rogers and Spider-Man, they all look the same as ordinary people, but their ability to fight is extremely high. Even in the face of super ability players like Quicksilver, they can quickly find a way to deal with them extremely fast, speed, and even figured out an opportunity to launch some counterattacks against Quicksilver. Rogers is known as Marvel's 5 and 5 Open, and he can do 2 tricks when he meets anyone. Spider-Man is equipped with Stark's armor and equipment, as well as his original induction ability and power, which are not weak in the Marvel movie universe. In addition, like Natasha Romanoff and Hawkeye, they are ordinary people, but they are not ordinary people. The super high combat ability combined with the combat experience accumulated over the decades makes them able to fight even if they are only mortals. A place in Avengers. Just now, Wu Chen gave me the permission to deploy the super god robot. Vision said, but he said it with obvious hesitation. You mean you can get the super god robots out of the research institute? Then what are you waiting for? Let them out now. Quicksilver is very excited, but he is very aware of the combat power of the super god robots. If they join, then this so-called coalition is nothing at all. Even if there is really going to be a world war, with the ability of the super god robots in the Super God Research Institute, it is definitely a super army that swept all the armies in the world. You have to know that once the superhero robot goes into battle, the situation will be completely out of control. Vision said, quote question mark dot 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 quote dot. Quicksilver's face also turned to doubts. I only have the authority to mobilize the super god robots, but the fighting methods of the super god robots are independently supported by the space-based computing program, so their combat methods are definitely different from ours. When they are fighting, they will never have any mercy. Vision said, and Quicksilver heard this, and fully understood why Vision was hesitation. The 4 of them came to launch an attack. Although they had long expected to cause casualties, they would pay attention to the severity of the attack no matter what, and they would not kill those soldiers if they could not kill. The addition of Hulk later broke this pattern, but Hulk's attacks were indistinguishable, that is to say, although the damage he caused was great, the actual number of casualties might not be very high. But once the super god robots join, with their combat methods, the number of soldiers involved in the war will increase dramatically. You must know that super god technology is all about efficiency. These super god robots either do not participate in the battle. Once they participate in the battle, their goal is to kill the enemy. Even if they do it again, they will completely lose their combat effectiveness, either dead or disabled. This is the end of the matter, and we have no choice. Doctor Strange pushed Falcon and Winter Soldier dozens of meters away, and now he was behind Vision. Strange. Vision looked back at Doctor Strange. None of us want so many people to die, but the battle has already begun and the war cannot end so easily. Doctor Strange said, he's right, what we have to face now is only the Avengers and the thousands of people in this base Wang Jiaojiao, but if we delay any longer, people from other military bases will come, and by then the number of people participating in the war will increase exponentially, and the situation we will face will be even more tragic than it is now. Black Panther didn't come, but he also knew that the 3 people here were discussing something. When the super god robots join the battle, the number of casualties may surge, but the battle can be ended before their reinforcements arrive. Otherwise, whether we continue to fight or retreat, the consequences will be a full-scale war, and the number of casualties will be more than the previous 2 world wars were even more terrifying. Doctor Strange said, and Vision heard what he and Black Panther said, and had already made a choice. In fact, he also thought of this himself, but it was a bit unbearable for him to personally issue such an order that would ruin the lives of hundreds or even thousands of people. What are you going to do? Rogers and the rest of the Avengers got together, and they had just heard, Vision et al. Super god robots, they should be talking about the new robots created by Wu Chen when the Ultron robots in the parallel universe invaded. Stark's voice came over, and even he who was fighting Hulk noticed the situation here. He knew that the situation here was probably more tense than the appearance of Hulk. Vision, Pilcher, do you really want to upgrade this war again? Rogers questioned. He was in a hurry right now. You are the ones who upgraded this war. Vision said. He had never made up his mind, but now he finally made up his mind. Rogers, the big clock's evaluation of you is not wrong. Maybe you are one of the few pure-minded people on Earth, but you are a standard fool. At this moment, Vision remembered what he had seen, the big clock's evaluation of Rogers in the superhero database recorded by the big clock. You always want to pursue the most ideal world, but in fact, the world has been in trouble many times because of you. The justice you think is right is to pull more people together and jump into the endless abyss. Quote. Vision said, and at the same time, he gave the order to summon the superhero robot. Over the battlefield, a huge amount of space wormhole appeared, where hundreds of robots were slowly emerging. They are transformed from the former Aochang robot, but their bodies have more vibranium or other hard metals in the universe. They are not flight like Stark's armor, but hold a variety of weapons and rely on with the independent flight controller behind the flight. The Super God robot has far surpassed the original Ultron robot in terms of performance and the operating system behind it. Moreover, the number of these Super God robots is more than the robot army created by Ultron who once appeared in Sokovia. The order to strike has been received. All, strangle the enemies. The voice of the Super God robot appeared in the sky, and the bodies of those Super God robots showed a chilling killing intent. That is the energy contained in these Super God robots, which are all adjusted to the open state. These Super God robots with built-in low-profile void engines are not weaker than the general first-generation Super Warriors even in the Super God universe. The existence of, and now, they are about to deal with those ordinary human soldiers. Target locked, ready to attack. All the robots, their weapon systems, had locked onto the soldiers scattered throughout the forest. Friday, activate the global anti-counterfeiting system and turn on all drones. Stark is finally about to show his trump card. In the plot of the movie, it was the satellite defense system that Stark left to Spider-Man Peter Parker after his death, a group of extremely large drones. But here, it's yet another contingency plan prepared by Stark. Since Stark knew what kind of power Wu Chen possesses, Stark has realized that it is necessary to be on guard against Wu Chen early, so he began to build those equipment and defense systems that can play a role in future wars. Also, he used to claim to be the smartest human being on Earth, so he didn't want to lag behind Wu Chen on the road of science. He has been carrying out various upgrades and strengthening, but until now, he's still not surpassing Wu Chen. It was detected that a large number of armed drones were approaching, the space defense system was activated, and all obstacles were cleared. The Super God robots suddenly turned around, and at their shoulders, rows of miniature missiles were displayed, and then all of them were launched towards the sky. After a few seconds, everyone saw the violent explosion that occurred high in the sky. Stark summoned the drone battle group, and before they had time to rush to the battlefield, they were all intercepted, and there was no one left safe. The firepower of these robots is so terrifying. Spider-Man complained. He had been looking forward to it. Stark's latest defense programs were defeated before they could see their shadows. Quick, let those soldiers retreat quickly, they can't withstand the attacks of these robots. Stark said, and Rogers at the moment realized it. However, just when they thought that the next attack of the Super God robots would be the coalition of thousands of people on the ground, the eyes of those robots were still staring at the sky. Retrieved abnormally powerful energy is approaching. The Super God robot issued such an instruction, and Wu Chen, who was far away in Xandar, had also seen the source of the powerful energy retrieved by the Super God robots. It was a man approaching the battlefield at breakneck speed from outside the Earth, a superhero known by the Marvel movie universe as the strongest Avenger, Captain Marvel. It was Nick Fury, who contacted Captain Marvel at the beginning of the Civil War and asked her to come to the Earth as soon as possible, otherwise, the Earth would experience an unprecedented catastrophe. And at the moment, this Captain Marvel just arrived. I didn't expect that she would appear at this time, this is really an unexpected variable. Wu Chen said. Originally, Wu Chen gave Vision the authority to summon the Super God robot, and he could already decide the outcome of this war. Because on Earth, there is no one who can resist the attack of the Super God robot at the same time. But now that Captain Marvel is here, the situation is about to change. Although Captain Marvel is only alone, her strength is not weak. At least, the firepower of the superhero robot alone cannot cause an effective blow to it, and Captain Marvel's attack is enough to make the superhero robot gradually collapse. Who is that person? Can she really change the tide of this war alone? Scarlet Witch asked, and at the moment she was also carefully observing the figure that appeared on the projection and was wrapped in blue light. She was also an ordinary person on Earth in the past, but because of the influence of the cosmic energy released by Tesseract, she was endowed with a powerful ability, and even her physical quality has already taken a qualitative leap. In terms of overall strength, I'm afraid she is still above you. Wu Chen said, and the overall strength in his mouth naturally refers to defense, speed and other aspects. Otherwise, if you just judge by attacking power, the power of Scarlet Witch is the strongest among all the superheroes that have appeared in the Marvel movie universe so far. 1. What the hell is going on here? Captain Marvel appeared in the sky, and she stood opposite those superhuman robots. Who are you? Rogers looked up at Captain Marvel. Vision and all the other superheroes, at the moment were looking at her too. Carol Danvers, I got a message from Fury, where is he now? Captain Marvel looked at Rogers asked. Fury, you know Nick Fury. Natasha Romanoff looked at Captain Marvel suspiciously. How could someone who had flown in from outside the Earth even have something to do with Fury? From the tone of your voice, you seem to know Fury. Captain Marvel descended from midair and stood in front of Natasha Romanoff and others. Not only I know, but everyone here knows him, and he used to be my immediate boss with Barton. Natasha Romanoff replied. So, you are also employees of the Homeland Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Bureau. Captain Marvel said. Homeland Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Bureau. We are indeed employees there, but now there are no people who call Roar Shield. How long have you been out of contact with the outside world? Natasha Romanoff asked. I haven't been back to Earth for over 20 years. Captain Marvel said. I still have a lot of things to do in the universe, so if you know Fury, you should help me contact him and let him tell me, what's the big deal about the Earth, and I need to come back from the universe specially. Captain Marvel said, she, the superhero, has been responsible for the security of all parts of the universe for the past 20 years. When she gave Fury the communicator, she said yes, if it is not a very important matter, it is best don't contact her lightly. Okay, I'll help you get in touch with him. After Natasha Romanoff finished speaking, he began to communicate with Fury. At the same time, on the opposite side of them, Vision and others were also watching Captain Marvel, and what Captain Marvel had just said, Vision had naturally heard it. After more than 20 years, returning from the universe, this person's identity is probably not simple. Quicksilver said, visit the big clock. Wu Chen's big clock knows everything, just ask the big clock and you should be able to figure out the situation. Doctor Strange reminded, I am already accessing the data of the big clock, but the database in the big clock is set with permissions. Except for Wu Chen, anyone who wants to access the data needs Wu Chen's consent and permission to do so. Vision said that he had been investigating information related to Captain Marvel as early as the moment Captain Marvel appeared. Wait, the data is here, it seems that Wu Chen should have noticed the situation here. Vision suddenly said that his brain information center had read the latest news from the big clock. Details about Captain Marvel, her true identity, her relationship with Fury, the source of her abilities, and even an analysis of battle stats. Vision synchronized the information to Quicksilver et al. Looks like this is a tricky guy, and if she chooses to side with Rogers and Stark, we're going to be in big trouble. Quicksilver said, although he is confident that his current strength is very strong, he never doubts the data provided by the big clock, and the big clock judges that on the current Earth, except for the Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One, no one can be its opponent. Wu Chen is now in Xandar. Wu Chen, didn't he already notice the situation here? Wouldn't it be okay to let him come over? Hulk said humbly. This big green man came to Vision and the others when the parties were temporarily in a truce. We are doing this now to prevent Wu Chen from directly participating in it. Now Wu Chen already knows the situation here, but it doesn't work out. Originally, it was to understand our good intentions, but once we took the initiative to find him, then he would not. These issues need to be reconsidered. Vision said. Others, such as Quicksilver and others, also understand this truth. But for Hulk, he just said something impatiently. What a hassle. Hopefully, she won't choose to stand against us. Vision can only expect so much. But what if she chooses? Quicksilver asked rhetorically. Then try our best. It can be regarded as our last effort. If it doesn't work, we can only ask Wu Chen for help, and he will come forward in person. When Vision said this, he was very helpless. He really didn't want Wu Chen to be involved, but if the 5 of them, and the superhero robots together, couldn't solve the dispute caused by the so-called Superhero Registration Act, then Wu Chen could only come out. Let these so-called power holders know for yourself what it means to stop. I just hope that the number of casualties will not be too terrifying. I can only hope that when Wu Chen takes action, he can be considerate, and those innocent civilians will not be affected by it. A moment later, Captain Marvel, who was standing in the middle of Rogers and other Avengers, had obviously learned about the detailed situation on Earth through his contact with Fury. Wu Chen, is that the Eternal Son who has recently been rumored in the universe? I've always wanted to see how powerful he is. Captain Marvel said, her eyes turned to the group of super god robots in the sky. She already knows the current situation in the Earth, and she also knows why so many people are gathered here today, and she knows more clearly the purpose of the group of robots in the sky. No, she's really on the side of Rogers and Stark. Looking at Captain Marvel's eyes, Quicksilver already knew the position she had chosen for the Avenger who had returned from the universe. Her target is the super god robot. She must not be allowed to attack recklessly, otherwise once the super god robot is destroyed, our plan will fall into a more passive situation, and, if Wu Chen comes back, if the loss is investigated, things are probably not going well. Vision said, let me come for a while, this shining woman. After Hulk finished speaking, he rushed directly to where Captain Marvel was. However, before he could rush to Captain Marvel, he was stopped by Stark wearing anti-Hulk armor. Let me come. Vision flew directly to the sky. He chased the figure of Captain Marvel, and he also reached the sky. The remaining 3, their target is the remaining 7 Avengers and thousands of soldiers, but these people, at the moment, they all chose to stand by, they are all waiting, and the battle in the sky is dead. Captain Marvel wants to destroy those superhuman robots created by Wu Chen, and Vision is actually one of them. Now, all these robots belonging to the Supernatural Institute are launching a counterattack against Captain Marvel. In the database of the space-based computing group, there is the most excellent defense plan of Merlot Heavenly Court, although the combat power of these super god robots can't compare to Angel, and they don't have the powerful strength like Captain Marvel. But their combat ability is absolutely powerful. The first echelon, the configuration weapons are all replaced with flame weapons. The second echelon, armed with dark alloy armor, acts as the strongest defensive formation. The third echelon, all use energy guns to interfere with the target remotely. Number 1, prepare the flame-class god-killing armor-piercing bullet. Wu Chen was on Xandar Star, and he issued 677 successively to achieve these orders. The superhuman robots who were originally fighting Captain Marvel in the air on the Earth began to quickly divide into 4 parts. 3 of them are combat echelons composed of a large number of robots, while the 4th is only one. In the hands of this robot, Wu Chen had used and possessed in the original super god, God Punishment. Wu Chen didn't plan to take part in this battle, but he really wanted to see if he could kill Captain Marvel, who was called the strongest Avenger by many people in the real world, relying on his own robots. So, on the battlefield of the Earth, a wonderful situation appeared. Those super god robots that had been in the air all the time, all landed on the ground at this moment. They appear to be divided into 3 parts, one with a long sword and a spear, actively attacking Captain Marvel. Some holding shields and wearing heavy armor, guarding the middle group of robots with rifles and sniper rifles. Be careful, the weapons in the hands of those robots are extremely powerful. Rogers looked at Captain Marvel, who was on a rampage without the slightest dodging movement, and quickly opened his mouth to remind him. But the Captain Marvel, who has always been invincible in the universe, has already made her accustomed to using the simplest and most direct way to attack the target. Even if she heard Rogers' reminder at this moment, Captain Marvel was dismissive, because in her heart, she always felt that Rogers himself did not have the strength, so he was afraid of the weapons in the hands of these robots. Strength, you don't need to worry about it at all. So, she continued straight and rammed into the superhuman robots in front of her. Bang bang bang. A large number of energy guns attacked Captain Marvel, and those lasers fell on Captain Marvel's body. Except for some fireworks, Captain Marvel originally did not cause any damage. And Captain Marvel, who had personally experienced all this, felt even more disdain for Roger's reminder just now. However, when she was about to reach those robots, an accident happened. A red light suddenly stood out from the bunch of energy lasers, and a black bullet shot straight at Captain Marvel's head. Captain Marvel, who has always been extremely confident in her own strength, looked at the ordinary bullet, but suddenly felt a sense of crisis. Her body instinctively stopped, and her hands were directly crossed in front of her forehead to resist the bullet. Puff! The bullet entered and penetrated Captain Marvel's hands directly, and the power left behind continued to push the bullet to Captain Marvel's forehead. In times of crisis, Captain Marvel summons a helmet. The bullet landed on the helmet, a burst of sparks flashed out, and the bullet finally stopped on the helmet. But Captain Marvel's body was suddenly raised backwards due to the impact of the bullet. There was a buzzing sound in his head, and the whole person was in a state of dizziness. Godkiller No. 1 armor-piercing bullet. That was the bullet that Wu Chen used to deal with Ultron at Sokovia. Quicksilver recognized what the weapon held by the superhuman robot was, and already knew what the bullet that was fired was. That day at Sokovia, Wu Chen used that gun, and a bullet swept the entire Sokovia, destroying all the Ultron robots that were scattered and fleeing. The destructive power of that bullet was very powerful, Quicksilver said, but even those bullets didn't really kill Captain Marvel. Doctor Strange said, and everyone has noticed that Captain Marvel, who was still alive despite being shot away by bullets. And, with the strength of his physique, Captain Marvel has shaken off his vertigo. If Captain Marvel hadn't blocked a lot of bullets with his hands in advance, and then used his helmet to defend, then Captain Marvel might not be dead at this moment. Quicksilver said. Besides, the purpose of the bullet doesn't seem to be to kill Captain Marvel completely, it wants to interrupt the rhythm of Captain Marvel's attack, and the bullet also caused a certain impact on Captain Marvel originally, which has already it provides the best opportunity to counterattack for other super god robots. Quicksilver said, and his voice fell, and the situation in the core battlefield has begun to change again. Captain Marvel, who had just recovered from the dizziness and had not had time to adjust his physical condition, was immediately attacked by those superhero robots armed with flaming weapons. A long sword burning with flame, a spear that summons lightning, a spear shining with golden lines. These are all flame-level weapons. Although they are no longer ranked in the weapon system rankings of super god technology, they are still the most conventional weapons in the mainstream wars of the super god universe, and the reason for this is precisely because its attack power is not bad, and its simple forging technology. The gluttonous legion of space-level technology has a certain amount of flame-level weapons. The Angel Legion, the main god-level civilization, can even equip the entire army. Now, although Wu Chen has not built such a huge number of flame-level weapons, it is enough to equip these dozens of super god robots. Rumbling, crackling, ding ding dong, a continuous sound, a violent attack, a perfect attack plan. Captain Marvel was finally blown away, the light on her body completely dissipated, and she fell powerlessly to the ground. Although she is not dead yet, she has suffered the heaviest blow ever since she gained this power. She was beaten up by a group of robots she despised. Your strength is very strong, at least stronger than everyone else present. A voice suddenly came from the mouths of all the super god robots. Avengers who have been in contact with this voice know that it is Wu Chen's own voice, which means that Wu Chen must have been paying attention to the situation here early in the morning. Danvers, you are so confident in the power you have that you are completely mindless when you are fighting. What kind of attack can you take casually? Wu Chen said. His words were mocking the so-called strongest Avenger. I admit that I really underestimated these robots of yours, but their attacks may not really kill me. Captain Marvel got up from the ground, although there were many wounds on her body, but these wounds did not really hurt her vital points. Indeed, it's not easy to kill you with a flame-level weapon alone. Wu Chen said. Flame class. I think it's just some special weapons that can mobilize cosmic energies. It's ridiculous that you even give them a separate class. Captain Marvel said, wiping the blood from the corners of her mouth. It's ridiculous, it's really ridiculous, but the person who should be laughed at is not me, but you. Wu Chen said, and at the same time, a three-pointed, two-edged sword appeared in the air and appeared in front of Vision. This is the god-killing martial arts, whose name is Zanshin, and you should take this weapon and fight against Danvers. Wu Chen said, and the three-pointed, two-edged sword, at the moment, was already in Vision's hand. A powerful energy was transmitted from the three-pointed and two-edged sword to Vision's body, and he felt an unprecedented power, as if he was holding this weapon, his whole body was about to be sublimated from the original state to an upgrade. New stronger state. Zanshen. The name is quite domineering. I don't know if the power is really as powerful as you said. After Captain Marvel finished speaking, her body had re-burned with blue light, and the cosmic energies that filled her body were all motivated by her in one breath. Although she said that she didn't care about the weapons Wu Chen sent, in fact, she was extremely afraid in her heart. The previous projectile that killed God Number 1, as well as those flaming weapons that the robots used roar on her, were already very terrifying. If she hadn't defended with all her strength, those robots would not have attacked with precision. The key point of her body, I am afraid that at the moment she wants to stand up again, but it is not so easy. Come on, I will fight you in place of Mr. Wu Chen. Vision said, and at the moment, he had already received in his mind a set of combat skills using this three-pointed two-edged sword from the big clock, as well as some brief introductions about the martial arts. Replace. A guy who hides behind his back and doesn't dare to come out. I really don't understand how you guys are willing to follow him with all his heart. Captain Marvel said, he didn't shrink back, he just knew what I wanted, so he gave us this chance on purpose. After Vision finished speaking, his hands were already clenching the three-pointed and two-edged sword. On the tip of the knife, powerful energy began to gather, and the entire weapon was gradually covered by a burst of red energy, forming a completely different kind of flame-level weapon from the previous one's appearance. Mr. Wu Chen, he is a true god, a god who cannot be blasphemed by anyone. After speaking, Vision rushed out. The three-pointed two-edged sword was quickly swung out, and the blade went straight to Captain Marvel's head. No matter how sharp Captain Marvel's words were, he was really fighting at this moment, but he still didn't dare to confront Zanshen in Vision's hands. She ducked sideways, put her hands together, and emitted a strong light, actively attacking Vision's body. But at this moment, Vision's figure disappeared directly in place. The attack he just made was ferocious, but that move was just the beginning of the attack. From the moment he made the attack, it was a complete set of moves aimed at Captain Marvel. At this moment, right behind Captain Marvel, Zanshen lifted him up from the bottom up. Although Captain Marvel had long been prepared to deal with Vision's various attacks, she did not expect that Vision would be able to teleport. At this time, it was too late for her to try to escape. Clang! Zangami's blade slashed directly from Captain Marvel's right arm, and Captain Marvel's body, which was able to withstand the attack of flaming weapons, was like tofu and was easily cut by Zangami. Captain Marvel's entire arm was cut off directly. The so-called strongest Avenger has turned into a one-armed disabled person in the blink of an eye. What? Captain Marvel howled. It was only at this moment that Vision realized that his attack had reached such a level. His heart was shocked, and he was about to attack Captain Marvel, but Vision forcibly took it back. Vision retreated a few meters away. His right hand held Zanshen tightly, but his left hand was raised to aim at the position where Captain Marvel's arm was cut off. A white light shot out from his palm, which directly sealed his wound. Stopped the blood that was flowing freely. Rogers and other Avengers rushed forward at this moment, and they protected Captain Marvel by his side. And Vision, at the moment, is holding Zanshen, stunned in place. After a while, he recovered, and the expression on his face was still firm. In this war, casualties are unavoidable, and now she only has an arm short, and her life is not injured. She is lucky. Vision thought so in his heart, and then he flew into the sky. The Avengers, the soldiers of the coalition army, you should already understand how powerful my Supernatural Research Institute is. If you fight against us again, the result can only be your own destruction. As Vision said, his voice, under his special reinforcement, was like rolling thunder, spreading dozens of miles away, allowing people in the forest, nearby bases and cities further afield to be able to hear them all. Be clear. It's already like this, why are you still saying these words? Are you still the Vision I created? Stark at the moment was angry. he questioned Vision with his anti-Hulk armored megaphone. If you don't mind your own business, you will not be hurt. If those in power are not coveted by the technology mastered by the Supernatural Research Institute, there will be no war today. Our Supernatural Research Institute will never take the initiative to provoke disputes, but if there are people who take the initiative to provoke trouble, we will definitely fight back. Vision's words are declaring the position of the Supernatural Research Institute. And what he said at the moment was what Wu Chen allowed him to say. This, although not entirely Wu Chen's position, is indeed the position of the Supernatural Research Institute. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.